board and we're ready to roll. Traveling pairs, slink it downstairs, but there's something waiting for us. We make a plan of attack, we fight back to back. We're gonna have to stack a little slash and hack. They keep on dissing me, my low dexterity. Wait until they hear the chorus. Sooner or later, the dice land on the table. You know that's what fables are made of. Everybody sing, oh yeah, it's a critical hit. My main man did double damage with it. Everybody sing, oh yeah, it's a critical hit. This is a critical hit. My main man did double damage with it. Oh yeah, it's a critical hit. My main man did double damage with it. Everybody sing, oh yeah, it's a critical hit. It's a critical hit. Now it's wall to wall, watch your foes are falling, but it's time to pause, cause Mother Nature's calling. I'll be back in a second and I'll continue the reckoning. They will still be waiting for us, and the pressure grows to make a save and throw, to introduce some move, we turn the lights down low. My armor's exposed, I'm getting full of holes. Think I need another chorus. Sooner or later, the dice land on the table. You know that's what fables are made of. Everybody sing, oh yeah, it's a critical hit. My main man did double damage with it. Everybody sing, oh yeah, it's a critical hit. This is a critical hit. My main man did double damage with it. Oh yeah, it's a critical hit. My main man did double damage with it. Everybody sing, oh yeah, it's a critical hit. It's critical. That ain't how we roll. Oh no, it ain't stolen. We on a roll. Hey, we on a roll. That ain't how we roll. Oh no, it ain't stolen. We on a roll. Hey, we on a roll. Sooner or later, the dice land on the table. You know that's what fables are made of. Oh yeah, it's a critical hit. My main man did double damage with it. Everybody sing, oh yeah, it's a critical hit. This is a critical hit. My main man did double damage with it. Oh yeah, it's a critical hit. My main man did double damage. Everybody sing, oh yeah, it's a critical hit. It's critical. Everybody sing, oh yeah, it's a critical hit. Everybody sing, oh yeah, it's a critical hit. This is a critical hit. Oh yeah, it's a critical hit. Everybody sing, oh yeah, it's a critical hit. It's critical. Everybody sing, oh yeah, it's a critical hit. My main man did double damage with it. Everybody sing, oh yeah, it's a critical hit. This is a critical hit. My main man did double damage with it. Oh yeah, it's a critical hit. My main man did double damage with it. Everybody sing, oh yeah, it's a critical hit. It's critical.
Yeah, that critical hit. I am hoping that we get a critical hit tonight in terms of something that we'll be talking about. What's up, everybody? Welcome, everyone, to episode 17 of Masters of the Dungeon, my DM roundtable show. It is my pleasure to welcome everybody to the show. I hope everyone is looking forward to this and looking forward to some good discussion about Dungeons & Dragons, about role-playing games in general, and about the state of the industry, the tabletop industry, and stuff like that. I think we have a good show planned for you today with some good guests, and I am looking forward to it. Before I get there, though, I do want to remind everybody about ways to support the stream and stuff that's going on with us. If you have not done so already, please follow the channel. That is always much appreciated. Please check out the YouTube channel with !ArvTube, the Discord channel with !ArvCord, where you can hang out with the Arvanauts in between streams. !Arv tweets will get you over to my Twitter, where you can follow me over there. And !Tweet will allow you to retweet the stream, and please do that, because we always like to bring in people outside the Twitch community and make them a part of the Twitch community if we can. !Arv Shop will get you over to the merchandise area where you can get Infinity and Beyond stuff, although soon it will be expanded to other campaigns and stuff that we do here as well. !Arvtreon is the Patreon, which is currently sitting at $342.96. We want to be able to move that up to $350 and beyond, and heading up to $400 and all that kind of good stuff. And then last but certainly not least, of course, is that sub button right above the video window. We have at the moment, I believe, 41 subs, and we're trying to move that that up towards 50 as well, because we'll get more emotes and all that stuff. And we do have more emotes coming, by the way, other emotes on the way being designed by the incomparable Kilobyte. That he's been a busy bee with a lot of stuff that he's been doing for the channel and elsewhere. So he will be getting that stuff to us soon. And you can find out more about all of that, by the way, at arvineleron.com. Quick note on schedule before I talk about the big thing that I want to sort of promote. And that is that I was going to be doing Master of the Dungeon here. Then I was planning to do the Patreon-fueled Chat Chosen Game of the Month. What's up, Shadowed? Chat Chosen Game of the Month, but the game that won was Blade Runner, and I did not realize that it is not available anywhere except on like either Abandonware or through eBay or Amazon. It's not actually that expensive, but you need to get a physical copy. It's not digitally available unless you do Abandonware, which I'm kind of not really that sanguine about doing. So that means that there's just no way. I have been slammed with work this week, and there was absolutely no way that I was going to be able to get that and download it and all that. It just wasn't going to work. So I am going to be trying to schedule the Patreon Fueled Chat Chosen Game of the Month for relatively early in the month, hopefully maybe next month. I mean in April rather, hopefully sometime next week. And I will order that game and then get it in, and then I'll be able to play it. So it is going to be Blade Runner, but it's just not going to happen today or tomorrow because, again, it needs to actually arrive at my house first. So I didn't know that. Oh, okay, cool. Well, I will see you later on tonight, maybe Shadowed. Enjoy hanging out or heading out, and thank you for checking in on Arcanaspot. So that's happening. So instead of doing the Patreon game, we will be doing more of the Sorcery series tonight, which I think will be great. You can loan it to me. That's okay. Thank you, Dunsel. I appreciate that. But no, that's what things like the Patreon are for. And as I say, it's not expensive. I can get it for like $25, but I need to actually get it and have it sent to me. So I will do that, and it will get to me sometime in the next week or so. It just isn't something I could get, I can't get it overnighted or something, air mail or something like that's absurd. So I'm going to be doing that. So the big thing that I want to mention here, the big note is the Forbidden Library Kickstarter. And I want to highlight that very quickly because you will see this right up here. Look at it. Look at it. Currently, we are sitting at $56.92 of the $8,000 goal. In case you were curious, that means that we are over 70% funded, and we are not even 10 full days in yet. And we have 196 backers, as Snicer pointed out. Once we get to 200 backers, we will have hardcover editions that will be available for the physical. So when you get the physical versions, this does not obviously apply if you just get the PDF, but if you get the physical version, you'll be able to get a hardcover edition of it, which will be pretty awesome. So that's going to be great when you get to 200 backers. And of course, that's going to be the deal with that. So we're sitting at $56.92. If we get to 5,800 tonight, we will be doing a giveaway. So if we get to 5,800 tonight, we will be doing a giveaway. This is again for my Forbidden Library Kickstarter, which you can see right there. Tales and Tomes, the Forbidden Library, doing by the incomparable team at Alligator Alley Entertainment. It is a D&D fully compatible, 5e compatible adventure to bring people from levels 1 to 3. And it's also a source book with a ton of amazing contributors to it. So I'm actually, very, very excited about all the amazing contributors we have, and it's great. I'm excited, and it's going to be awesome. So we will be talking more about that today because of the guests that are involved here that we're going to be doing. And with that said, I'm going to unmute myself so the fine gentleman on the other end of the transom can hear that I'm ready to go over to them. And then we are going to swing over to them. Dun, 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 dun.
You sound so much sexier now, Greg.
Oh, do I?
Yeah, you did.
Now we actually do. So anyway, so here we are. This is the Masters of the Dungeon show, and you will notice that there are two blank windows at the bottom right, and that is because those are like King Arthur had the seat perilous, so that no one is to sit in those windows and sit in the seat until the actual knight returns. That will be occupied by two other amazing people in just a moment, but. Yes, exactly, and it's 10,000 pages. No, it's not 10,000 pages, but it will be a significant size thing. But we have a special guest.
10,000 pages. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I know, right? That'll be. Before we introduce, though, our special guest who is here, I'm going to talk to one of my two partners in crime. Chelsea Little Red Dot, who's the other regular on the show, is not able to join us this show because of just being completely overloaded and overwhelmed. So she told me about a week ago she wouldn't be able to make this. She'll be back in April. She's fine. Everything's good. But Dave, of course, is with us, the digital DM, who continues to have a more and more awesome background. I kept telling him, I was saying every time he comes on, I'm just like, that's more awesome. He's got the red box behind him. He's got the original. I don't know if that's Keep in the Borderlands, or if
It
that's
is.
is that the
Keep It
original or
Borderlands
is it the
V2.
is
No,
it
that's the original.
okay? It's the
That
original.
that is and that's what I'm going to be show and telling tonight.
Oh, sweet.
For our show and tell item.
Yeah,
but it's going to be a bunch of items, but we'll save that for about another hour and 45 minutes.
Awesome. I'm excited though because I'm curious about what you think about the Saltmarsh stuff, and oh man, I'm interested to see.
Well, Saltmarsh is advanced Dungeons and Dragons.
True.
So,
that is true.
yeah.
That is true. But it's neat that they're actually bringing that back in. But anyway, that Goodman Games is doing that. So, how is life been with you, Dave, over the last month or so?
It's going good. I missed the last show. Things are just hectic for me, so I can understand, Dot saying overwhelmed, especially working full time with Fantasy Grounds and, having fun trying to do my digital Dungeon Master stuff. It just gets harder and harder to do. But yeah, plus I've been moved around my office from the small room to the large room, so that's why everything's a mess behind me. And my mother just had cataract surgery earlier this week, so that's
how'd it go? Did it go okay?
But good. Right? She's first time she's been able to see in 15 years, and she says, "Damn, you're ugly." Thanks.
You're like, that's great. Thanks, Mom. That's funny. Well, I'm glad that went well. Yeah, I actually had a friend who just went through that recently and was just like, she's like, well, it wasn't fun, but man, seeing is a nice thing. It's nice to see. I was like, oh, I bet so.
She didn't even know the surgery happened. I mean, they put her on some pretty good stuff.
Okay.
She was so loopy. It was kind of funny. But yeah, first time she's been able to see clearly in about 15 years. So it's really nice.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad about that. And it's always a pleasure to have Dave with us and to be co-hosting with me along with our guest stars. And one of the guest stars, again, the other two will be joining us shortly, is the gentleman right below my window, you can see, which is from Alligator Entertainment. And this is Christopher Negline. I'll make sure I got that right? Negline? Okay, because I want to make sure we were talking pronunciation. But yes, Chris is with us, and Chris, of course, is from Alligator Alley Entertainment. And Chris, for those who do not know who you are or know your Twitch alias, although I know it, do you want to talk a little bit about what you do at Alligator Alley and just give us sort of a quick background about your profile? Because I think folks may know Brian because he's been on before, but I don't think I've had you on live before. So tell the folks who you are.
Well, here I'll be Von Ether, AAE.
Yes.
And I'm one of the game writers and fiction writers. Little rule here too, though, of course, I bow to Rich Lescofair, who's the heart and soul of Esper Genesis, which is what we're doing. I do like 8%. I do like 2%. He does like 98%. How I like to say it.
But your 2% is the most critical 2% though, right? Like it's
like the spice on top of it's on top of the ice cream.
Right. You're the masala to the chicken tikka, right? Like without that, you don't get the full thing.
Right. Okay. He's the steak. And in addition to that, in addition to Alligator Alley Entertainment, I also am known as Ganza Gaming in some various circles where I do a lot of writing for community content for Cypher. So the DM's Guild for the Cypher game.
Awesome. That's true. And I'm telling you, like DM's Guild is churning out some really good like adventure writers and producers and just, just a lot of good stuff coming out of DM's Guild. That is, I mean, just to go back, both of us, all of my guests and me probably go back to this a little bit, but I know Dave and I do go back to a similar era where just you didn't have, people that were doing stuff at this level of professionalism that weren't, direct from TSR or whatever, right? Like, I mean, at least not that we had access to. And so it's wild to see really, really top quality stuff, top shelf stuff coming out through DM's Guild, which I think is really neat.
Great. And a perfect example for us, I mean, like the stuff, people look at our Esper Genesis book and we're like 4 people did that.
Yeah, no, I know. It continues to blow my mind. Like that's just
That's some pretty amazing art in that book too.
oh, man, it's so
Really
good. Yeah, absolutely. And full disclosure, one of the reasons, of course, that I wanted to have Chris, and soon we'll be joined by Eric and Brian as well, is because they are the ones who are coordinating and doing the Forgotten Library Kickstarter. Forbidden Library. I know the name of my own adventure. Forbidden Library Kickstarter. And so we're going to have a chance to talk a little bit about that too. But so this is Chris. Chris, this is everyone in chat. And I guess what we'll do here is I'm going to wait until we get Brian and Eric, and then all three of you can, chat about the Kickstarter / Esper Genesis more generally. But I want to start by asking a little bit, as we usually do, about cool stuff that has been happening in our campaigns as of late. So things that have been happening in games that we've been playing. So I will give primacy of place this time to the guest first, I think. So Chris, I will ask you, putting you on the spot, what's something cool that's been happening? First of all, you should let us know like what games you're playing in at the moment, but then like what cool stuff has been happening in said games.
Well, right now I am actually getting to play Versus Run 5th edition. And you'll forgive the tear here in my eye, because I tell you what, my little gamers, they grow up so fast. 2 years ago, most of these guys I have, they didn't even roll dice. They were just like, this is a cool thing I see on Critical Role or something else. And from there, they're like actually running games now.
Awesome.
So right now I have a guy, it's the first time everybody's doing 5th edition. And we're just having a blast with this brand new GM. It's his first time game mastering. And he's, we see some of the cliches coming from a mile away, but that's actually kind of part of the fun now. And it's also amazing to see how YouTube and Twitch are really informing this new generation of game masters and players. Because, just like an example, like just painting figs alone. I mean, it took us years to like collect the knowledge we get and like from our friends. And then now people, they just like look at YouTube for about a month and then they're like turning out crazy stuff.
Yeah, it is true. And there's actually, I think we talked about this, Dave, on a previous show some months ago about how Critical Role has created a generation of, and Acquisitions Incorporated, I would say too, have created a generation of people that know a certain, like understand kind of the structure of the game. Now, sometimes they understand it in only a particular way, which can be problematic because not everybody is
entertainment type of
right.
way,
Exactly. And that's not the only way to do a game. But having said that, though, it is good to sort of, there's a certain cadence to playing, even if you're not doing that. And it's cool that they pick up on that cadence a little bit. So that's kind of neat. I think that they're able to pick up on that stuff.
Yeah, Acquisitions Inc. and Critical Role, they've definitely been a huge contributing factor, as to why D&D is more popular now than ever before. So
yeah, which is good for everybody.
Especially with bringing in, a more diverse player base, more women playing, more people of color, everything. I mean, it's great.
Yeah, it really is great. And I've, since we're talking, we'll be mentioning the Kickstarter on and off tonight. Obviously, the Vox Machina Kickstarter, man, that is a phenomenon. Like I was showing my daughter this. I think it was shortly after it had launched, maybe about 10 hours or so, and it was just looking at the number, and at that point it had already reached like 2 million something, and just the numbers just keep, the page just keeps auto refreshing, and she was like, Daddy, is that like, just what does that mean, that are those people, new people donating? I'm like, yeah, because like it is crazy, and it's over $8 million now. So again, now that's some of that is just because they really happen to love that particular show. But those people, this is the same thing I say to people who, like to hate on J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling is not perfect as a writer, but J.K. Rowling's interest that people have in her work and her writing, that has kids lining up at midnight at bookstores like they would for video games to get the latest Harry Potter, whatever, those kids...
Or Metallica tickets for Master of Puppets.
Right. Exactly. But like that kind of... But that's what I mean. Like that hype is something that these kids have been able to do. And those kids end up in my classrooms and end up reading my books and our works. And like... So I am never going to complain about someone who arguably has done more to reverse illiteracy, excuse me, to improve literacy in a lot of ways than a lot of people would have. So that's the way I feel about Vox Machina and Critical Role. It's not the only way to play it, but I'm never going to complain about something which gets people into the hobby this way, you know? So it's something which is really powerful. So, so, all right. So Chris, do you have any like particular quick event that you want to talk about that happened in this campaign with this new DM before I throw it over to Dave for his?
Well, you know, the thing I really like seeing with him is that a lot of new GMs, they want to be like very precise. They want to be like playing it rules as written.
Right.
And if it doesn't fit, whatever they want for that round peg doesn't fit that score hole, they kind of panic.
Yep.
Guy's been really great. I mean, you know, I'm playing a goblin that is a goblin, but has halfling stats.
Okay.
Because he didn't want to have to like get another thing. And at somewhere at third level, I don't know how he did it behind the Game Master screen, but he had a quote unquote, you know, small black dragon we were fighting.
Okay.
That was a reoccurring villain. And you know what? It was a tense fight. It was a great fight. I didn't ask him afterwards, what did you actually use? For all I know, he could have used a Wayburn or something.
Right.
But yeah, it was our shape-shifting henchman or lieutenant that we were fighting for a while. So it felt great.
Oh, that's cool. And yeah, you know, actually, sometimes it's interesting to see people who have never encountered this before. You know, we hear is like blah, blah, blah. Oh, it's an orc, it's a kobold, it's a gnoll, it's it, right? But sometimes when you describe something to people and they don't know, and they're just like, what am I? And it's like the early days, as I've told this story before, of playing Keep on the Borderlands, my first ever D&D experience, and being like, yep. And being like, I don't know see, look at that. Branding. Yeah, I had that. It was that exact same thing. And like just being completely like sort of blown away, just like, what is this? Like there's a passageway. I see a creature. What is this creature? You know, it was a brand new world. So having a chance to see that sense of like, wow, is pretty cool for both GMs and for players. Dave, what about you? What new stuff have you been up to over the last couple of months, actually, since I saw you on the GM front or playing front?
Well, my games are back up. You know, I've got my Dungeon of the Mad Mage. We just finished level 1. We're going down to level 2. So that's going to be fun. Get a little bit harder for him. My other game is Dungeon of the Mad Mage. We're probably almost about halfway done with that, hoping to wrap that up. I want to get down to 1 5e game. And then my Saturday game, as you can see behind me, I've actually gone into the digital Dungeon Master vaults.
Wow.
Which is actually a couple of duct tape shut comic books, but
no, you don't say that. No. It's like it's how to get smart is what it is.
Yeah.
Multiple doors and portals and.
Oh yeah, I broke out all my D&D stuff, and I'm going to be running a basic Dungeons and Dragons game, circa Rules Cyclopedia.
Nice.
The best D&D book of all time, in my opinion, because it's the whole game in 304 pages, and. It's going to be a lot of death, a lot of carnage, and we're going to roll our characters old school style, 3d6 straight on down.
Yep. None of this drop the lowest. None of that,
no. Bull crap, 27 point buy, all this other easy stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. If you fail your death save, well, your saving throw versus death, ray, or poison, you die.
Yep.
I mean, it's going to be fun, and I'm looking forward to it. And so that's my office is in a transition right now. It's a mess, and I've got to get this place cleaned up. I've got, stuff all over the place. I can't even barely move around in here. There's so many stacks of books and stuff. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks, I'll have it done and all my minis off of the floor and everything else. And, but games are going good. I'm looking forward to that. Like I said, by the end of the year, hopefully I'll have ran some Castles and Crusades. I also want to run a little bit of Call of Cthulhu, and I'm looking forward to doing some more Savage Worlds, probably Solomon Kane, or maybe even ETU, because that's pretty crazy.
Absolutely, yeah. No, that's cool. Hey, what's up, Takanjia? Yeah, that's cool stuff. I had this image in my mind of you doing kind of like a reveal of the full the room with all the stuff, or the table where it all happens and all that. Like, I want to see that, like straight up.
Yep. I'm actually in the process of taking pictures of everything. And I actually want to, there's about 160 basic Dungeons and Dragons books. And I've got 110 of them. I thought I had most of them, but there's a lot more than I thought that was.
Yeah, I didn't
there.
know it was that many actually.
So no, there is, and I kind of want to go over each book and just because it's just going to the Digital Dungeon Master Vault and breaking out all this old D&D stuff from the 80s and 90s is just brought back all these memories of my childhood.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to talk about all these books, and I never DM'd. I only played, but I was the only one out of all of my friends that actually worked and made any money. So
great.
I bought all this stuff, and I'd spend, I'd get out of work on a Tuesday with my paycheck, and I'd go to, remember when there used to be bookstores and when there used to be malls with stores in them? I used to go to Walden Books and.
Yep. Paperback Booksmith was my local one, but Walden Books I knew too. Yep.
Yep. Yeah, and the manager used to let me look at her microfiche machine that had all of the D&D books that if they didn't have them on the shelf, I'm like, hey, can you order this? And buy them next week. And that's how I got everything. Hell, half of this stuff is still in wrappers and stuff, which is amazing. I didn't even know that D&D has appreciated in value so much. I'm like, holy crap, I'm sitting on a small fortune here. But
that's actually, you're inspiring me to go down and take a look at my own, because I have some of those also that are wrapped up. I have an original Greyhawk Gazetteer, but that's from it's not wrapped though, but I have a lot of that stuff from since I got the Red Box, which by the way I got at KB Toys in my local mall, the Farmington Valley Mall. Nice. Is where I got that. And I literally remember walking out to the car with it, like just looking at it and being like, what is this? And I still have the dice with the crayon, that you colored in.
Crayon.
Yeah.
I'll say this, my crayon's broke. I don't know how in the hell the crayon broke, but it broke.
Oh,
but I saw the dice are still in the bag, and it still has all the little pamphlets where you could, mail order stuff, and
that's super cool. It would be cool to do. I was just thinking about this, and I'm sorry, we will not. I promise, Chris, we won't spend all the entire show just like waxing eloquent about this. But it would be cool to do basically a tour through the editions, basically just run a one shot of first edition, second edition, third edition, you know what I mean? And run it all the way up to 5e. It would be interesting to do just to see how ruthless the old editions were. Yeah. Just to see sort of the historical development of it. I just thought about that. Anyway, but that's really cool. So I'm actually, I've enjoyed sort of lurking and stopping by Dave's channel and watching some of the stuff that he does. So I am looking forward to more of that. The one that I want to talk about that's been going on in the campaign actually was something that happened as a consequence, and I'm going to bring it up because it's appropriate, because it happened in the Esper Genesis game. So I was down at a conference in Orlando, Florida, old Dave's old stomping ground state. And I was down there for the International Conference for the Fantastic and the Arts, and Carlos Hernandez, who of course plays Sleepwell on the Esper Genesis campaign, was down there as well. And so we ended up doing a mobile stream from there with him and me in one place, and then Kat and Johnny, Video Store Cowboy, were remoted in. Zach wasn't able to do it this month because he's working with his drumline kids, which, by the way, good luck, Zach. I hope everything goes well with those kids. Anyway, so we did that, and in the camp, so the session was great. It was a lot of fun to do this with Carlos there. But one of the great things was, because Carlos was right across the table from me, I was able to not only sort of I can see facial expressions anyway because of the webcam, but I was able to sort of determine body language and stuff like that as well. And so there was a sequence where the crew, for those of you who haven't been watching the campaign, have just gotten off the base. They have this mysterious organization now, which is basically chasing them. They've got a rogue AI that's with them that is possibly networked to other rogue AIs, and that's problematic, but it's also really powerful, so they don't really know what to do about that. Plus, they have someone who screwed them over, and they're trying to decide if they want to go for revenge against that person or just the hell with them. And anyways, they've got a whole bunch of stuff going on. But in the midst of that, one of the people, the Sleepwell, who's a Volna, kind of a cat people race, but he's an engineer, and he really loves technology. And this particular AI that they discovered thinks that he is its creator. And so he's a teenager, basically, this Volna. And so this is the first time he's ever been treated as he sees it with respect. So the others are like, we don't know if we won't really want this thing around. And he's like, well, that's fine, but this thing is a good thing, and I'm going to do that. And so there's this big like tension between his character and another player's character, which is just, it's great. Like, and it's, again, a tension between characters, not players. And it's going to end up being resolved one way or the other, where it's really going to kind of deepen the sort of connection between them. But it was really cool to see him getting into that. And Carlos is a good player. It was really cool to see him getting into that and to see that live, like not just, figures on a two-dimensional screen, but to actually see him there with sort of the body language he had was really, really neat. So I dig it. It was really cool to sort of see that going on, and all the campaigns have been going well, but that was a lot of fun. So all right, well, let's talk a little bit then about the subject of the day. And as we are waiting here for a little bit longer for Brian and Eric to get here, I will throw this out to both of you gentlemen. I want to talk a little bit about the state of the tabletop role-playing industry. And specifically, I want to look at the effect of this crowdfunding, Kickstarter, Patreon phenomenon on those things, because there have been a number of games that I've been looking at as of late. In particular, one that regular viewer of mine, Brahms, who's playing in the Emberwind campaign on my channel, let me know about. Actually, both of these he let me know about. One of them was called Volcania, which is this sort of cyber steampunk. It's an Italian company, and this steampunk sort of a system, which is really kind of neat. And the other one, which you guys might have heard of, is Reach of Titan, which was Jim McClure's thing, which made a lot of money, which is basically Shadow of the Colossus, the tabletop role-playing game. Like, where you just battle bosses and you have villages you build up. It's really, really interesting. And it did exceedingly well. But one thing I was thinking about is I don't think that either of those, which are a little bit niche oriented, would have done nearly as well pre-Kickstarter. If we were just doing this based on people showing up at cons or trying to go to their local game store and, try to set it up that way, I don't think it would have had the same impact, even during the internet era, but before Kickstarter showed up. So I guess I wanted to ask you gentlemen what you think about the effect of Kickstarter, both positive and negative, like things that it's done that's good, things that it's done that are not so good. And whoever wants to take that first can.
Well, I personally think, it's been like you said, it's been good and bad. I mean, in my opinion, this is just purely my opinion, I think we're going through a renaissance of a huge boom in the game industry. Whether there's 100 board games coming out every week, there's 10 or 20 new settings or RPG games, rolling Kickstarters all over the place. I mean, it's good from a point. It gives a small company a voice, and it gives them a platform to create content without having to go through a huge publishing house and getting just absolutely raped with fees, and they never see any money. I think that's good. So, but although Kickstarter does it to companies as well, but not as bad as what a publishing house would do. Mm-hmm. So I think it's good from that standpoint, and it gives, like I said, smaller companies the opportunity to get their products out there, which you probably would have never seen 30 years ago,
right?
When we were buying D&D books from just TSR, or if you got lucky and found Talos Lanta books in a comics bookstore or something,
or the quality level was chapbook, black and white, like printed and then copied at like your dad's copier at work or something. You know what I mean? Like,
well, and I don't think really until third edition, D&D books were awesome. Don't get me wrong. I mean, look, I got all the old black and white stuff behind me. But if you're talking from a pure quality standpoint, I don't think it started happening until around 2000 with third edition.
Yeah.
So because those books were just absolutely beautiful, the black and white art just kind of went to the wayside. But I mean, it's good. It's good that way. But it's also bad because there's just so much stuff that is just out there now. And you just possibly can't get it all unless you're a billionaire. And I was buying so much stuff in a year. I was 50 Kickstarters in, supporting all these Kickstarters. And I don't support any now. And it's not that I don't want to. but it's very rarely that I do support Kickstarters now, just because there's so many great games out there, but I just don't have enough time to play them.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm so invested in D&D and, you know, Starfinder, and, you know, I have the subscriptions for that. And, you know, so all these great Kickstarters, not to say that they're not great, which they are, but I just can't kickstart them because there's just too many of them. And, you know, I did kickstart the Savage Worlds Adventure Edition because I love Savage Worlds. And I just recently kickstarted Wise Guys, which is new, which is a new Savage Worlds setting. It's like a 1980s, 90s gangster setting.
So when you say you don't do that anymore, you just don't do 50 anymore. Is what you mean.
I don't, because I saw them like, and then I've basically cleaned house. I got rid of 18 boxes of RPG books, 18 banana boxes full, and I still have a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
And I buy this stuff and it's just, I don't use it. So I had to just purge everything. So except for basically what I have now. And, you know, it's not that I don't want to, I want to, but you know, that's a negative way. And then, you know, all these systems are coming out. And like you said, you know, it's hard to just keep up, and I just can't do it.
Yeah, you're right about that also.
So it is, there are pluses and cons. So
for sure. But I mean, I guess that one thing I'll say is that that's not a terrible problem to have. You know, if like the issue is just there's too much good stuff, you know, that's okay. And I mean, a lot of it, and there is an audience for all of it. You know, I'm sure there are some people that see. For me, when I hear it's Shadow of the Colossus, the role playing game, I'm like, well, Shadow of the Colossus is one of the best video games I ever played. So like I'm already there in terms of that. But there are other people going to be like, why would you do that? You know, or steampunk, you know, some people are not into it. Other people are really going to dig it. So it's good to have choices in that regard. I do want to very quickly, by the way, say thank you to Animus Maelstrom for resubbing. Thank you, Animus, very, very much. I appreciate that. Thank you. And also I want to mention that we got a new, speaking of Kickstarter, we got a new Kickstarter supporter in the meantime. So we're up to 197 backers, 5727. So we are 3 backers away, folks, from hardcover editions. So that is pretty awesome.
You'll hit that by the end of the show.
I would hope so. But I mean, I'm very happy with how we're doing so far. But yeah, so yeah, I just wanted to sort of bring that up if we could. But yeah, I'm with you. I think that it's true. There is so much stuff out there, and sometimes I hear from people, and I'm just like, I don't even know how they have the time to be able to, like, I'm glad they are, because they help me keep up on stuff. And they're like, oh, have you seen this? Have you seen this? And I'm like, I've seen that. No, I haven't seen the other 3 things that you just told me about. Like, and so that's crazy. Because I mean, I'm doing it for games and books as well. They're like, have you read this? Have you read this? I'm like, look, man, I'm teaching. I'm like, I got a lot of stuff that I'm doing, but it is important to be able to get that stuff out there. Chris, what about you? What's your take on where, I mean, I there's a little bit of positive bias, I assume, insofar as the folks that you work with have done several very successful Kickstarters, but how do you think the industry is responding positively and negatively to the crowdfunding phenomenon of Kickstarter and things like that?
So I'm going to start with the biggest negative I can think of, and that is companies seem to now be putting together their business plans based on Kickstarter.
That's true, yeah.
And that makes me really nervous, you know, because if Kickstarter goes, what does that mean for that company? What does that mean for the health of the industry and the hobby?
Yep.
You know, and that's like the biggest, you know, negative that really unnerves me. But as far as positives go, of course, it seems like the bar for quality has gone up and stays up. And I think for a long time in our industry, just kind of like part of the growth of somebody as a company or as a designer was the first thing you made was kind of like a fantasy heartbreaker. You know, this is my version of D&D with the one thing I think makes D&D perfect. Or takes out the thing that bugged me about D&D that kept it from being perfect.
Right.
And Kickstarter seems to have accelerated us over that and I guess the OGL accelerated us over that hump. So now we have people that are making designs that, you know, they're getting into very niche spaces and designing things and spreading out and experimenting more, which is great. I actually, you know, I think Kickstarter really helped out the OSR movement. So, you know, old school stuff.
Yeah. That's true. And right. I mean, like, for example, I don't know. I was trying to remember if Goodman Games did a Kickstarter for the Keeping the Borderlands one that I ended up getting. I don't remember if they did or not, because by the time I got it, it wasn't.
Series, I don't think they have, but they do Kickstarters.
Yeah, I didn't.
How can Keep on the Borderlands go from 28 pages to like 500 pound bludgeoning utensil?
I know it's what happens when you reprint it like 12 times and in Spanish, but like in the same book. Yeah. But no, I mean, it's true. It's they got, one thing is interesting though. I mean, that is very much like the behind the scenes DVD though, right? I mean, like that's very much that's stuff like, how it was originally come up with, like what the various people were thinking about, early drafts, so that's very much a kind of specialist thing, which I got because it literally was my introduction to D&D. So given how important this thing has been in my life, I was like, you know what, I'm that's an insta buy for me. But for a lot of people, I think if you have access to just the adventure module, well, that's really all you need. I mean, you don't need to get that other book, But absolutely. What's up, Paxi? And so that's definitely a part of the way that this works. Player-funded games have increased player entitlement. Did that also happen with board games and D&D Kickstarter? That's interesting. Do you mean player-funded video games have increased player entitlement to Kanji? See, because part of that... What's up, G? Oh, my goodness. And Jizase shows up. What's up, G? Yeah, so... That's interesting thought. Because Kickstarters are intended to be more transparent, and frankly, because some Kickstarters, the people are scammers, or they disappear, or they're incompetent. So that has also made people a little more wary than in the heady days where anyone just put something up there and they were like, sure, this is novel, and they backed it. But so that's part of it, but it's not just that. Is there a higher bar for entry now where we think that, people who support the Kickstarters, and maybe I should start with Dave since he used to be the Kickstarter consumer with like the 50 plus, per year.
Not anymore. That was a couple of years ago.
But I mean, you can think a little bit about it. Does it create, you think, a sense of entitlement where people feel like, why haven't you updated me in the last 20 minutes? Like, where's my this, that, and the other, or not? I mean, I'm curious because that is an interesting
Well, the comments can get pretty brutal. I mean, especially if, everybody wants answers now. So, and I have never done a Kickstarter, and I will probably never do a Kickstarter, but I know it is a lot of work, and, people want updates every 5 minutes on when they're getting their stuff. And, I just think you need to be patient with Kickstarter. Sometimes I've been, in fact, I still have 5 Kickstarters that I've never gotten anything from. So, and that was years ago. So,
oh man,
but it happens, that's in the disclaimer at the bottom of the page. This is, you're putting your money and you may or may not get your product. So, I mean, one of the Kickstarters that I did, it was a Savage Worlds Kickstarter. Not going to name it, not going to name the company. But it took years to get all of the stuff that I was supposed to get. But I
may know that Kickstarter. I may know it well.
It took years, but yeah. But I mean, hey,
Paxi is calling for names, Dave. He's like, "Come on, give me the names." You're not giving the names. That's probably no need for that.
Because the creator is no longer with that company. I don't think so.
Oh, all right.
So they probably just gave it away. But yeah, I mean, when people put their money on something, you'll see the comments are just brutal. Most of the time, if you're not answering within 5 minutes, they're saying, "Oh, I want my money back" and everything else. And I mean, come on, it's Kickstarter. Just be patient.
It's true. And a lot of that is, I think about, Chris can speak to this, having, in the midst of running one right now, but, a lot of this too is about communication, and about, staying upfront about it. When I ran, when we did the Icarus Kickstarter for my graphic novel a few years ago, we had some delays in the art, and I won't go into reasons for why.
Go ahead.
No, for many reasons, I'm not going to talk about that. But yeah, don't do that. I might be like, oh, sounds good, I'm going to run through the door that you just opened. But no, like, that was, and those folks actually were very, very understanding. And that was a $16,000 Kickstarter with 401 backers. So that wasn't like, 5 people. Wow. That was a lot of people. And we managed to, a lot of that was about communication from everyone involved. It put me under a lot of stress because I was like really afraid that we were going to get, but we managed to kind of really kind of work together and, make it so that people were understanding because we kept everybody in the loop. And so people were good about that. I think there are other cases though, where especially if you have if people feel like there's a certain reputation from people that are involved elsewhere, that can cause them to kind of give you the side eye if there's any problems. I have not, fortunately, had to deal with that because I've worked with people that have very good reputations. But it's an industry, it's a business that once you go down the path of having done something that was sketchy or sleazy, or some of the horror stories we hear on Kickstarter, that does not usually, disappear with the next one. That kind of reputation follows you. And so that creates suspicion sometimes in the Kickstarter base. And I think part of that. Yeah, see, Nonstop, I supported
you for a year. I was naive to that stuff. I just kept saying support.
Yep.
Bye. Oh my gosh.
Oh man, we love people like you though, Dave. I just want you to know, I supported 2 Kickstarters. One of them, the company stole money. The other's being worked on for the last 4 years. Yeah, I mean, and some of that is just, is there a paper trail? Is there a history that's a positive history? That usually speaks well, especially if they stay in contact with everybody also and doesn't just kind of vanish completely. Because as Dunsel said, like, on the other hand, there have been some Kickstarters that have been amazing that I've seen that have just come out super well. And so it really kind of depends. Actually, that does lead to a question, and I'll throw this at Chris. First, does the tabletop Kickstarter have a different kind of challenge than, let's say, because if you're dealing with a tabletop RPG, you're generally not dealing with components that much. I mean, sometimes, but not that much. You're not dealing certainly with like video game development time. You're dealing with something sometimes which feels more intangible. Yes, it's the physical book, but it's also the work that went into designing the adventure. The props. Well, right. Like Invisible Sun, which is a lot about like the props, and that's great. But for those of us living in I own
reality.
five Porsches
reality.
land. Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, yeah.
For those of us not doing that, it's really about the sort of design of it. So what do you think, Chris, about the sort of... Yeah, right. Oh God, I know. Exactly. 700-pound box. But like, what do you think about that?
From England too.
That's right. Yeah. Gosh. Chris, what do you think about that in terms of like what the difficulty is that is created based upon a tabletop role-playing Kickstarter, and what people expect or don't expect from that, do you think?
Well, just to let you know, I think I've backed about 30 or so Kickstarters. I know I'm an amateur.
You're an addict.
Oh, I've only backed 7, man. I'm nothing compared to what only 7.
Of those, about 4 of them are still active, have not produced. Everything else is produced. I've had no dead or con Kickstarters in my list.
Mm-hmm.
I had 2. I'm sorry. I just thought of the other one, but I'm not going to name a name.
But that's out of 500, right? So your ratio was pretty good.
I have about a 90.
So,
90%.
Oh, okay. That's pretty good.
So yeah, the vast majority of them are tabletop and RPG stuff. I only did like 1 or 2 video games, and that was it. So I count myself lucky for that. I think the bigger challenge when you're doing tabletop stuff is, you're dealing with only a few people, so there's nobody to take over if something happens. But compared to like you might have a whole team and everything together, but then there's that flip side, right? You have a whole team for video games, but then you burn through your money so much faster.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. That's true. I mean, you can do it with, Alligator Alley is basically 4 people. And yes, they outsource to other folks, and I understand that, but like still, it's pretty crazy that they're able to produce the work that they do in that regard.
I just put in chat, do not say anything.
I got you though. That's, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. And I wanted to say, by the way, 30 projects for you plus 4 that are still underway. Okay, that's cool, Trend. I wanted to say, and by the way, hello to Trendane. I wanted to say to Snicer, yes, you did, Brahms. There you go. Yeah, you did show me Volcanian Reach of Titan. Yeah, you did. Snicer, I wanted to say, by the way, Snicer is an example of someone. Now, I've had many of the people watching have been kind enough to back Forbidden Library, for which I'm very grateful. Snicer is one of those people. Now, I didn't know this actually until he just said this, which is I only dumped money into 1 Kickstarter, and it's almost 200 backers now. Well, I think I know what that Kickstarter is. But Snicer like really threw down not only a very generous pledge, but then has been like the evangelist, right? Like sort of going out and being like, you need to let people know about this thing because it's awesome and we can get more books and everything else. And that is no joke. That kind of thing is sort of commitment that you can't otherwise get. And I see that we have just been joined, and I'm going to add this person into his appropriate window by Eric, who is here to join us. Hello, Eric. Welcome, sir. And while I am sort of setting you up, they can see you on Chris's window, but I'll give you your own special window. While we're doing this, do you want to explain to the folks what your role is at Alligator Alley and who you are and all that kind of good stuff?
Yeah, so I've been a game industry veteran now for about 20 years. My role with Alligator Alley, I'm a lead designer of one of our role-playing lines. It's Witch Hunter: The Invisible World, which is a game of swashbuckling adventure and horror set in a world much like our 17th century. Mm-hmm. But what I do for most of the other projects and what I bring a lot of experience with is actually taking these cool ideas and physically putting them into a game, having an actual book, getting it through distribution, getting it sold, having it end up with people. So I do a lot of that, all the production.
Which is like enormously important. Like I cannot even tell you. And a lot of times when I've been dealing with AAE, I've heard from folks like I would ask Brian a question or Rich a question, and they'd be like, "That sounds like an Eric question." And generally, the Eric question is, "Here's how we actually do what I just asked." So like, and he's like, "Well, so here's how you would actually do it if you were going to, not chase a unicorn, but actually do it." And so that's important because like otherwise, if it's just a matter of, oh, that sounds cool and everything just sounds cool, but nothing gets done, that is not helpful either. So that's pretty sweet. And yeah, I wondered if you could just talk briefly, Eric, about Witch Hunter, because Witch Hunter was sort of the first, was that the first AAE product basically, was Witch Hunter? Or?
Well, basically, because when we formed AAE, I came from another company called Paradigm Concepts. Mm-hmm. Witch Hunter was one of the lines. So when we formed AAE, that was the only product line we had.
Okay.
So it's the oldest of our product lines. It's not the first thing we produced.
I'm sorry. I'm laughing because now I see another person who is also kind of important, who is sneaking in here. And I'm going to try to do the best I can to capture video on this also. So just bear with me.
We also have a sophisticated system here, where as more people come in, we just push the computer further away.
Yeah. So no, it's that this is very, right. This is also at the top of their high-tech fortress. So this is like very, like, this is exclusive stuff, you folks. You have no idea how difficult it is.
We were thinking of spending all this money on a streaming studio, but
yeah, exactly.
Would be push the laptop further away technique. I think we may be going with that.
Yeah, that's true. This is what the Kickstarter is actually for, is to just fund like more security systems and stuff for the for the awesomeness. We are, of course,
pull the laptop back and forth.
Yes, exactly. All right, as I get these folks captured, and I just about have them here. This is, of course, Brian Dalrymple, who people have seen. There we go. Now Brian's at his own thing, who folks have seen before. And I should say, by the way, I should introduce both of the gentlemen who just appeared. So Eric, Brian, let me introduce you to Dave. Dave, Brian, Eric. Dave is my co-host.
To meet you, so. Hi, Dave. How you doing?
Nice to meet you.
So now we've got the full crew. So we've got the full crew, and that's good because I've run out of windows on my overlay. So this is gonna have to be it. So yeah, we were just talking actually, and I'd like to hear you gentlemen weigh in about the effect that Kickstarter and crowdfunding in general has had on the tabletop role-playing industry specifically. And I was curious about if you could talk a little bit about what you see as kind of the pros and cons from this. Chris has already weighed in, as has Dave and myself, but I'm curious, Brian and Eric, if you have thoughts about what this has changed in terms of, even like internet era, but pre-Kickstarter, what the availability of crowdfunding stuff has done and what challenges does it present. So whichever one of you gentlemen would like to take this on first.
So I'm going to go first because Brian's got more of an answer, because he's much more in depth on a daily basis with the game industry as a whole.
Okay.
I think Kickstarter has overwhelmingly been a positive because products that never would have existed exist now. So the big plus on it is things now exist that never would have before. Mm-hmm. And in a lot of cases, the overall quality of them tends to go higher because the people aren't trying to fund it and then find out if they're going to make.
Right.
They got some money through there. What I like about Kickstarter is the cool sort of I'm a participant, I'm a co-creator aspect.
Yeah.
My big concern of it is, and this is not common. I mean, it's common, but it's not like it seems more common than it is people almost using it like a pre-order system. I don't think that's what it should be for. I think, you know, Kickstarter should do about 3 things. One of them is make something that never would have existed exist. Make something that would have existed be way more awesome.
Okay.
Or build awareness for something, right? So
Money games.
It can work as a marketing system. It could work as a marketing system also, just to get that word out for something that, you know, people should know is cool.
Yeah.
Again, I don't like it when people just use it to pre-order, but it's pretty awesome. And one of the lessons we learned on my previous company on our second Kickstarter is don't get overexcited. Lots of people are backing. Let's keep promising, right?
Yeah,
I mean, we delivered it, but it became quite the project as a result, because we kept promising more and more good stuff.
And there is a kind of, it's true that there is a kind of, I don't want to say mania, but there is kind of like, wow, look. And then just, you know, before you know it, you're just like, everyone come in. All of a sudden you got like hundreds of backers that are asking for things that will cost you far more per unit to ship and all that. So yes, I've heard horror stories myself from other things that I've been involved with. Brian, what about from your point of view about stuff? I should say, by the way, that not only is Brian, of course, with Alligator Alley Entertainment, and of course a game developer and designer himself, and has done writing for adventures in Esper Genesis and elsewhere. If you saw on the sponsored campaign Consigned to Oblivion, that was Brian's expertise there. But he is also the secretary of the Game Manufacturers Association, and I wanted to ask about that because it means he's got a sort of big picture view of this. What is your take on what Kickstarter has done in terms of both challenges that it's provided, Brian, and things that it's maybe given us as benefits and positives that we can do? Eric, I think, covered some of that, but I'm wondering if you have any things you can add.
Well, Eric's right on all the points that he brought across for sure. It's a very powerful tool. It allows things to happen that might not have otherwise been able to happen. It allows artists to get paid faster than they would have before, or really any freelancer who would normally be waiting until like 90 days after the product has gone into distribution to get paid in many cases up front, sometimes on completion of the project or faster in those ways. And that also gives you a much clearer idea of what your budget is going to be for things like editing and art and stuff like that. So the overall quality is up, and that's great. But it needs to be very carefully planned in the way that you can wind up putting yourself out of business if you did not do all of your work spreadsheet wise before you were trying to put things together.
Yeah.
Or overpromise. It's interesting in the way that that Kickstarter has disrupted the 3-tier hobby channel, creating like kind of an extra arm from the publisher to go direct to a consumer. In many ways, we have a lot of people who are customers of publishers directly through Kickstarter programs or projects. I think we've actually kind of come around full circle a little bit now, because crowdfunding itself, whether it's Indiegogo or Kickstarter or anybody, is now kind of being modified and disrupted by things like BackerKit and pledge management systems and post-campaign stuff.
Yeah.
And I probably shouldn't be saying this while we've got a Kickstarter running.
And we love every part of it. Okay, now.
And we need you, and I will stress this because we have not funded yet.
Right.
We really need to get funded.
But soon. Keep it up, people. Keep it up.
Keep in mind that we will, of course, have post-campaign options available for people that aren't necessarily ready in our narrow 30-day window, which seems to still be the paradigm that everybody is using for the lengths of their crowdfunding campaigns.
Yeah.
But in reality, these campaigns extend over months and many, many months, and even into like years after campaigns are over, where people can still come in on campaigns very often at or near what was offered for the Kickstarter. In some cases, you get even more by coming in after the fact through a post-campaign backer kit style or pledge manager style operation. I know with Esper Genesis, when we got started, our Kickstarter was numerically planned out well, spreadsheet wise, as far as like what we thought we were going to be needing to do, but our marketing implementation was pretty much non-existent. We had kind of figured out how we needed to get the word out ahead of time, probably about a month or so after the campaign had ended.
Oh, this is how you do. Yeah, well, you were very clear with me when you're like, okay, so this is what we need to do this time. So this time we did have a lot of, literally a month plus of pre-Kickstarter hype.
And we still could have even done more. The biggest challenge with any of this stuff is getting the word out when you don't already have a following. When you see these gigantic campaigns from companies that blow up into the hundreds of thousands of dollars, in almost every case, they've got some kind of following already.
Yeah.
Either through previously successful Kickstarters or through the webcomic that they have or the podcast that they have or some kind of big online following that they've got already to kind of divert money into it to let them blow up that way. There are still plenty of projects that blow up organically, but they're in the minority when you compare them to the number of products that are getting launched, which is an ever increasing number.
Yeah.
Which also tends to be a little bit of downward pressure on the number of projects that succeed because there's just so many of them going in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to add on to one of your points.
Oh, sure. Yeah, jump on in.
Too far away from it. First of all, if someone could throw like a thumbs up to like Kilobyte for like his comment there, but we've got
Kilobyte, who made the video, by the way, that you see on the Kickstarter page, by the way.
It was an awesome video.
Great.
That's Kilobyte's handiwork. Sorry.
Yeah. So a big thing that happens is, and there's an urgency. I told people I'm going to have a Kickstarter in a week. All right. And what people need to realize is the answer of, the big answer to that is, so, I mean, it doesn't matter, right? There was when we were launching Esper Genesis, like I told everyone the Kickstarter is launching this week. We haven't told everyone a Kickstarter is launching this week. The only people you've told are the same people that are going to back it anyway. Just tell them, hey, we're going to tell more people, all right? The actual week of launch doesn't make a big difference. And also, one of the ways the Kickstarter works is dynamic. And I'm hoping that Free Library is different because we have a different marketing plan. But a lot of them work is people jump in the first 4 days, and then they come back in the last 5 days. And the middle part, I mean, there's no point in making it 87 days or whatever because,
it'll be a trough of like, yeah. Yeah.
Right. If you were to cut the 87-day one to, 24 days, you might lose almost 2%.
Yeah.
I mean, because everything happens at the beginning and happens at the end.
Well, you look at the funding curve on KickTrack for a lot of these projects, and it looked like a horseshoe, right? You see a whole bunch of people come in at the beginning, a whole bunch of people come in at the end, and then the middle will be kind of nothing. Esper Genesis was not like that because we were still getting the word out as the campaign progressed. So we saw like a kind of
some spikes.
We didn't have any actual negative days. And we haven't had any negative days so far on the Forbidden Library.
And that's all up to you. By the way, 2 backers away from hardcover editions, people. 198 backers, 5727 right now. So we are
just before we went live here.
Yep.
And I was like, it's one further away. But no, my hope is that we actually reach 200 during this show.
That would be lovely.
So I got to open up my computer and update all of the graphics. But with the Forbidden Library, we've had the middle of our horseshoe has had a bunch of little bumps and ridges in it, right? No negative days. We've had a lot of little kind of ups and downs, but they've all been pretty solid. And that is in part due to the nature of the way that the product is when we're inviting these contributors in. Each one of these contributors has got their own social media circle that is slowly starting to explode out.
Yep.
We've only been going for a week. Several of our contributors have their own podcasts and shows, and we're only just now starting to see the project mentioned on those shows.
Right.
Because the shows air about once a week. So, and we're hoping for a little bit of a different thing. 2 years ago, when we launched Esper Genesis, we were launching against like one major Kickstarter that was going at the time, which was Fulminir Knots Rising Sun, launched at the same time. It actually crashed Kickstarter when it launched, and our data was unavailable for like 2 hours.
Oh, God.
We were getting stuff back together. But this time around, in the last week, like 4 role-playing projects of like similar or greater scale than us launched pretty much on the same day as ours did. There's been like 5 more that have launched since, so it's a much more crowded market.
Yeah.
But none of them have our contributor list.
No, nobody's got
No, nobody's got our contributor. Well, and also no one has, the Alligator Alley, team, which is the mark of quality in the industry. I'm waiting at this point for Dave, poor Dave, to just gradually sink below his microphone as we all just sort of like, oh, you're great. No, I'm great. Like the whole thing, branding,
I would argue that everybody that's pitching in for this has lent their personal connections and relationships with people out there in the larger community to leverage that to help us build up this list, which I'm convinced is the strongest contributor list for any role-playing product to be launched on Kickstarter in the history of Kickstarter.
What do you think about it? Stackpole, Greenwood, right?
We don't have Stackpole yet. We don't have Stackpole.
We don't have
yet.
Stackpole?
We're working on Stackpole.
I thought you get Mike by now.
We don't have him yet.
I'm very disappointed.
Yeah,
Brian doesn't have Mike by now.
Matt Forbeck, John Wick, Charles Ryan, Ken Height,
And Chris Negline.
Chris Net, that's right. Ed Greenwood, Cat Rambo, Carlos Hernandez. That was that helped that I had them in my campaign already. But yeah, like I agree with you. Like that list is pretty neat to see that just building and building. And every time you announce a new one, and in fact, as some folks who follow the Kickstarter will know, they actually announced that they would. The ones they've been waiting for with the $10,000 stretch goal. They're going to announce this now, and they're going to add a new stretch goal of more contributors because they were so excited about those people.
Well, can I go ahead and announce two more now?
Oh, go ahead and announce it. Then I do want to ask Dave a question because I swear to God this is not an infomercial, Dave. Sorry, I'm just geeking out.
No, go for it. Hey,
but I did get sign-ons today. We actually got sign-ons from 4. I'm going to give you 2 of them.
Okay, lay it on me.
Whoa.
Cam Banks.
Sorry, say again.
Cam Banks.
Okay, yeah.
Who was Marvel Superheroes, RPG, Firefly. Most recently, he's done a ton of work for Atlas Games.
Yep.
And Rob Donahue from Evil Hat. Today, so that's Fate.
Nice.
Wow.
So that's I'm just overwhelmed.
That is great stuff.
Of the friends we have in the community is just amazing.
That is great stuff. Well,
more to add too, but we'll wait a little bit to announce it.
That is really, really cool stuff. So that's 2 more contributors, folks. And one of the things that's interesting about that is that so much of this business is, and any business probably, is about relationships. And I knew when I talked to the Alligator Alley folks at Gen Con last year that I first of all, the biggest thing was that I just saw how good the quality product of Esper Genesis was because I've been playing it on my channel and I had the book and I had talked to them. But I just felt like it was something that was a good connection with them, and it has been absolutely that ever since. Like all of the stuff that they've done and put together, it just feels nice that I feel like, I've been obviously promoting it quite a bit and trying to, deal with the folks that are fans of mine, and they have been wonderfully supportive. But having a company that is a good company that knows how to do these things is just extremely valuable. And I the way I sold it to them, I think, and actually Eric may remember this because he was actually at the lunch at Gen Con where we were having this, and I said, well, there's this book Manticore, and Eric was like, oh, a book Manticore, that's okay, that's cool. How do we get art for that? And then that was the thing, and that was this thing that eventually became this awesome, amazing cover that AAE commissioned from the artist, which is a book Manticore.
Sarah Dellinger.
Sarah Dellinger, who did just really great job with that. And it just felt, I guess people just dig the pitch too. Like the contributors are like, yes, please, we would like to contribute to it, because it's been great to see some of those. And some of these, of course, are the author side. These are people that I know personally, not just as players, but elsewhere. Obviously, I've worked with Ed and so on. But it's pretty goddamn cool, let me just say. When I asked Ed, and Ed is like...
Is that the first time I ever heard Greg say a cuss word? Get out of here.
It was like he was like, well, he's like, so what is this thing? And I explained it, and he's like, I would love to do this. This is awesome. Also, I saw your Kickstarter video, and it's a great video, and this is a great project. And I was like, like 11-year-old me was like, all right, well, I have achieved what the father of Forgotten Realms has told me that this Kickstarter is awesome. So that's amazing, and that's another relationship that you build. So it's been really cool to see you guys put that together.
That was a huge geek out moment for me too, was when you told me that you were bringing Ed Greenwood into this project.
Yep.
I fell over. Between Matt and Ed, and then bringing Matt in, because Matt is a mutual friend of for ours as well, and he's somebody we were going to talk to, and you had already gotten him, which was fantastic. But with Ed, I just fell out of my chair. And then when I read the bio and I saw that he's worked in libraries for a ton of his
Yep.
life,
That's his
I
deal.
worked
Yeah.
in a library too. I worked circulation desk at the Broward College Library for 3 years. And I wonder how many of the contributors have got like really cool like library experiences, whether it's working there or studying there or doing things in a library. And I think when we start to announce the stretch goals that come in after we fund, which hopefully will be very soon, I would like to see some really cool library-oriented stretch goals. And I've got a few in mind that I'm going to be sharing with you.
We will send all backers to the best library. No, we won't do that.
Your best library.
But I wanted to say, I want to throw this actually I want to ask Dave, because before Eric and Brian came on, so Dave was, and I didn't know this. I knew that Dave had backed some Kickstarters. I didn't know he backed as many as he had in the past.
Oh, I was a Kickstarter whore there for a little while there, Arv. I was, yeah.
That's great. So I want to ask you, I just
backed another one, by the way. I just happened to stumble across a Forbidden Library.
Oh, thank you, my friend. Thank you. Yay.
But
Thanks,
I'm never
dude.
$1.99. I was hoping somebody would.
$1.99. That's true. We're up to $1.99, people. We're one backer away. Snicer, who actually is going to be, he backed to $250. Aradinel also backed to $200. Those pledges, by the way, I want to say, anyone who pledges anything is extremely important. This is not like rating it like, oh, you can only afford to pledge $2 and that. All of it matters. Thank you. Even just spreading the word matters. That said, though, someone who's willing to drop that kind of money is pretty crazy. And being willing to do so, even on these other things, is when you've got a bunch of other Kickstarters, is definitely appreciated. So thank you, Dave, my friend. I really do appreciate that. But I wanted to, but I wanted
like a $300 level in for like a lock of gray hair.
You better get it quick before it all goes. So but I was going to ask you, Dave. So what stretch goals, like what kinds of things when you were backing, let's say a tabletop RPG, what stuff really kind of grabbed you to sort of, was it more books? Was it like hardcover versus soft cover? Like what stuff really made you go like, damn, I want to do this?
I mean, when I was backing Kickstarters, Greg, it was when within the first, couple of hours. So there weren't a lot of, back when I was doing Kickstarters 2-3 years ago, there weren't as many rewards or goals as, unlock stretch goals as there are now. But I really didn't pay attention to that. I was just like, oh, Savage Worlds Kickstarter, here we go. Or, a 5e compatible Kickstarter, here we go. That's pretty much what I did. I didn't really pay attention. But as long as as long as it looked like it was going to be a great supplement, and I love art. I buy books, as you can see. I buy books for the art. I mean, I love art and I love the games, and that's one thing that I noticed about Genesis was the art was just fantastic. And in fact, it's a lot better than most of the other RPGs out there. And I'm
really
just not saying that it's amazing art.
Yeah.
And but goals are nice. I did a couple of pre-order Kickstarters. I'm guilty of that. Monty Cook Kickstarters. I've done a couple of his well, I shouldn't say pre-order. I mean, I know it's Kickstarter, but I know where you're going. I knew exactly what you were talking about. So, but yeah, there was a lot of books thrown in a couple of those Kickstarters that I never knew was going to happen. So, but it's nice to get. I like it when I back a Kickstarter. Being a consumer, I don't want to see everything that I'm going to get because everything's already pre-made and everything like that. I like surprises. I want to see a couple days later, hey, oh, cool, new rewards added, or something like that. But I don't back expecting rewards because it's already hard enough to do a Kickstarter and trying to budget it and trying to weigh in everything that Kickstarter is going to take. So you have to plan for that. You have to plan. I know Kickstarters are a lot of work. I've never done one.
Dave's like the most generous Kickstarter because he's like, look, I don't want to be too much trouble. Like, it's just, it's very refreshing.
I don't say anything on the comments. I just keep my mouth shut and just fork money out.
That's all. Have my money. Thank you so much.
My money, and that's it.
It's tough, right? Because I mean, you can definitely, if you add on too much stuff, you can make a Kickstarter way more work than sometimes even a regular.
Yeah. I put a Kickstarter name down in the chat box that made a lot of promises. And I was like, well, I don't know if this is going to happen, but it did, you know, three years it took or something like that. So
Yeah, the typical Kickstarter is late. The typical amount of time that a Kickstarter is late is somewhere between 6 months and a year. So I think
that amazes me.
The expectations from the backer pools that are out there.
Yeah.
I can tell you. So I own a retail store. We're actually talking to you from the under construction cafe that is underway here next to my retail shop.
Nice.
It's branded the Forbidden Library Cafe. No, I'm just making that up. I just
yeah. Behind where we are sitting right now, there will be a library of games and books and stuff.
Awesome.
In the future, but you know, as a retailer, you know, I'm looking for a quality product when I'm looking for something to back, and you know, obviously, art has a lot to do with what catches my eye. But I want the people that are behind the campaign to have anticipated and encouraged my participation in the project from a retailer standpoint. So like I'm a Kickstarter super backer. I've backed, I think, upwards of about 140 projects or something like that.
Let me just pause you for a second, Brian. We just hit 200 backers. 5752, 200 backers. Woohoo! Huzzah! And Aradinel resubbed at tier 2. Oh my God, that's awesome. But thank you. That means we have got hardcover editions on the way, and we have hit 5752. By the way, reminder, $48 more, and there will be a giveaway that I will be doing of a couple of awesome video games, thanks to the generosity of viewers that have given these to me in the past. So we are up to 200 backers, 5752, and Snicer Tenu is losing his you-know-what because he's been pumped up about getting to that 200 backer limit for a while.
Thank you.
I'll tell you what, Greg, if you can get up to that, I'll even dib into the digital Dungeon Master vaults of my miniatures, and I'll even give away a couple of miniatures.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. So if we get up to 5,800, what that means is that we will do a giveaway, but Dave is actually going to give you one of the digital Dungeon Master vault stored miniatures, which is like, that is love. Let me tell you, this is stuff you only get on the Masters of the Dungeon
just laying around everywhere, guys.
No. This is supposed to be, took you forever to find it, and like this is like this miniature. It's like.
Yeah, it's in a vault, man, not a cardboard box.
Well, this is the vault. This is just tons and tons of them.
Yeah, and Aradinel, you do not need to boost the donation to 250 after just subbing again to me at tier 2 and already dropping $200, dude. Like you are really like you were good. Like trust me.
No, go ahead. Seriously,
to Brian's point about Kickstarters usually being like 6 months to a year late. Before I was ever in the game industry, so I'm going to go back to just fan buying something.
Okay.
You know, in mid to late '90s, be like, "Where's my Way of the Crane?" You know, it was supposed to be out in August, and it's February.
Yeah, stuff coming out later than anything.
And that's like
Kickstarter created.
You know,
that's what I'm talking about. The comments section is just brutal.
Right. It's like you told me the target date was September, and it's October 4th.
Yeah, there were.
And I only have a PDF.
There were easily a dozen companies that I carried in the shop that you regularly understood that whatever their announced date was going to get missed. You had a few people that were.
It's more like what we call guidelines.
Yeah,
they're really more guidelines.
As far as being a campaign that includes things that a retailer would see as a positive, that's what I was looking for. And I've actually written articles. I've given talks at conventions about ways that publishers that are running crowdfunding campaigns can be inclusive of stores and inclusive of the three-tier industry, the distribution chain system that we have as it is, and still offer all of these great things that we really appreciate about Kickstarter in terms of direct-to-consumer interaction. That's the kind of stuff that we wanted to build in. So when you look at the bottom of the Forbidden Library Kickstarter, there's a seal there that says brick and mortar friendly crowdfunding campaign, and that is because we're following a lot of those guidelines, right? We're letting retailers tell us ahead of time that they're going to be carrying the product. We're giving them the opportunity to get early release and some exclusive things for them, so that in the hopes that they'll be stocking it on their shelves as we go. And with a product like this is a great introductory product that is also going to have hopefully long tails for anybody that picks it up as a valuable resource in the future anytime they encounter a library, which you would think would be fairly often.
I mean, like, and no joke, like I mean, first of all, because it's my adventure, so having a chance to see that, in a printed form and so on. I've obviously had books published and stories published, but there's something really cool for me about this will be the first time that something like that has happened, where I've gotten one of my adventures like this in this kind of form, but also, like any, God-fearing fantasy writer, I like libraries, and and I like the experience. My father, growing up, had his own library of about 5,000 books because he was an English professor, and he had this the library design that we had in one of the places where we were was basically spiral. So he set it up so that all the shelves would kind of spiral into this room. So when I was about maybe 7 or 8, I could go into that room and go literally around the spiral to get to the center of this place. And you get to the center of it, and he's got these books and he's got Beowulf and obviously Tolkien, and he's got many other things that are not just fantasy, that were also science fiction, and then literary criticism that I didn't understand, and even now that I do it myself, I still don't understand it. But and that experience of the physical experience of being near the books was part of it. The smell of it, the feeling like you were enclosed inside this maze, but it was kind of, I don't know. There was something about it that really sort of spoke to me. And a lot of the people that I've spoken to about this project have mentioned something along those lines, that really kind of made a difference for them. So that's been really cool. Also, what just happened to my windows?
So I want to jump in just a moment to talk about the industry again. Don't forget,
Sorry, I turned my camera off.
companies don't even announce a product until it's on the shelf.
Right. That's true. No, that's fine. The cameras are okay. There we go. What did I don't exactly know what just happened. Oh, I know. And I can't move the windows. Okay. Well, that's going to be interesting. So I'm trying to think of how I can do this fast. Probably the fastest way would be, would you gentlemen mind disconnecting and reconnecting again? Because it'll actually be faster by doing it the other way. Just reconnect right back to the same Zoom call if you wouldn't mind.
All right. And I'm going to adjust the air conditioner here because 3 bodies next to each other is a lot.
What were you saying? Yes.
Yeah.
Chase everybody out. Success.
Well, good as that, man. Yeah, I wouldn't be bragging about that, especially when they're right outside the door. I hear you.
Just gonna give it a second while we disconnect and reconnect here. I don't think we've done it yet. Have you?
73 back there, not up here.
Yeah.
Chris, have you been able to disconnect yet or no?
Give me a second.
What are you doing?
I don't know what Chris is doing.
I don't know what Chris is doing either. All right, I'm trying to disconnect. I'm doing it the total opposite.
Do you want me to take care of it? Because
There we go.
I work with Chet.
Okay, now give us just 1 second. We'll be right back. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's exactly. Dave joined first, and then they did. So if they join after that, that'll be, because the reason is I had to take one window and basically split them into 3. So it will take forever otherwise, if I was doing that. Oh, that's awesome though. Spiral staircase is absolutely the key. Ah, there we go. Yes. Now we just have there it is. Every time that he comes in, the first thing is when the moon is it's very much Fifth Dimension. So, okay, they're in there. We're just waiting for Brian to sit back down, then he'll be centered. Okay, thank you. That's very helpful. So, so I guess the other thing that I wanted to ask is, so anyway, to finish up this thing, so the library had this real sort of elemental force for me. Also used bookstores. I had a used bookstore in my town that was like that too, that was very maze-like and run by this old guy who I felt like had, been born, lived, and would die in the same place, in the used bookstore. And it has that sort of feel. So I guess that may be part of this sort of experience also. I guess I should ask, let me throw this question, if I may throw this question to Eric. So Eric, when you talked about the fact when you were coming from the original game company and then came over to here, from Paradigm Concepts to here, I'm curious about what it's been like for you dealing with, because how big was the team that you worked with at Paradigm Concepts? Like how many employees are we talking about?
Yeah, so the actual size of the company is pretty comparable.
It was, okay.
We had one more person at Paradigm, really.
Okay.
So it's a small circle of friends making a couple of product lines, working together.
Okay.
Right?
So then,
so it's about the same as so that's pretty much the same. The difference here is, you know, and the Paradigm guys are my great friends, but you know, Brian and I have known each other for a very, very long time, so that's pretty easy. Rich is very, very easy to go with, and then you know, we keep Chris, but that's all right. No, but Chris is
Wow.
right. So it's not very. We get along very, very well, and we're very much on the same path, which is always a worry when you have a company. And like I said, I was a Paradigm concert for 20 years, so that was going on there too, right? But it's a very simple thing when you have a small group, because then you can just have a group of peers. When your company starts to get big, you really do have to start building a hierarchy, and we don't have that problem so much. As long as people are willing to accept, when we're talking about Witch Hunter, Eric says it. When we're talking about Esper Genesis, is what Rich says, right? You know, as long as we're willing to go with whoever is in charge of their avenue. Right?
And if, yeah, exactly, knowing where their lanes are, so to speak. Well, let me ask this too, and I'm curious about this from all three of you having done this. So this was an example where I tried to pitch this as something which I thought people already knew about your company because of our relationship with Esper Genesis. They already were super impressed because I, you know, raved about you all the time, about, you know, how great the system was. So in a way, I guess it was a little bit easier for me to be able to pitch it one way or the other. But I assume there's lots of it'd be awesome if we do this and then do this and then do this. And then the reality of, well, bam. And then Brian will not have a store and we'll all be homeless. Like, I assume there's a state at which you realize that financially you can't sort of fit this all together. So I'm curious about what is your guiding principle that makes you say, because clearly you want to design, you love this field, you want to be doing stuff in the game industry and doing stuff with games because you love games, etc. But what is the line where you're like, yeah, we can do this. This one is a labor of love, but probably isn't going to do anything, but we still really want to do it. This one is financially great, but I don't know whether it's fine, but it's not amazing. Like, how do you kind of balance out passion versus the reality of the checkbook?
Okay. All right. So a couple things. First of all, on the checkbook, because that's one of the other things I do. It's probably one of the things that's probably the most annoying to my partners that I do is, yes, I know you say it's only $200, but I also want you to realize that that's 1.6% of what this raised on Kickstarter. You know, I mean,
right.
You know, try to, you know, I know it sounds like not a lot of money, but you know, it's significant. But the big thing is it's a line, right? You know, if you don't think you're going to get too much money out of it, obviously nothing that's going to end you as a company should ever be entertained.
Right.
But if you don't think you get a lot of money off it, you better have a lot of love for it, right? So if it's like, yes, I know that maybe we'll lose maybe we'll lose $1,000, or maybe we won't make any money, or if we do make money, it's only a few hundred. But man, it's this thing I've wanted to do since I was 12.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, at that point, it's like, you know, sure. And then on the other end of it is, I really hate this. Well, if I'm going to do it, it better give me so much money to do things that I love.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a sliding scale. Right. Witch Hunter is a thing I very much enjoy the history of. Right. Esper Genesis is very, very cool, and I enjoy the way it comes out. I like all the concepts. You know, Rich obviously loves everything he's put into it. So everything that we've done so far, fortunately, has been something we've done because we really want to, and this includes the your project that we have going on here, right? Because the concept of it is, this is great, and it's funny. It's one of the things that we had synergistically, right? And I don't know if this helped you decide to join us, right, or come along with us. Is something that you did was so incredibly close in basic concept to like Brian's D&D campaign we played in,
yeah.
Right? I mean, you know, Ye Olde Hogwarts was a thing, right?
My spies are numerous and and far. It's a very long game. I planted the spy years ago.
It's like 10 years ago, right? Yeah. So I mean, I'm getting kind of long-winded with this, but what we choose to do, yeah, we want to make, don't get me wrong, we want to make money. It'd be fantastic, right? But what we choose to do is because we want it to exist as a thing, right? That's our number one driver on what we do.
That's pretty
consideration, right? I mean, if the thing that that I want to have out there already exist and another publisher puts it out there, well, great. I don't need to do it. So another designer did a really smash up job of it, and I'll play it. And I'll enjoy it because in addition to being publishers and creators, we're all players and we enjoy the things that we do too.
Yeah.
But it's important that what we work on is to be something that is interesting to us. Though certainly there's going to be times where, and I've seen this happen with other companies and also with stuff that I've worked on where it's be like, ooh, I'd really like to do this thing here. I've got a passion for this. But then there's this other thing over here that could be really popular that a lot of people would really enjoy. Maybe my passion for it isn't as great as the other thing right now, but if we can make that into a thing, and a lot of people are doing it, it can be like the driving thing behind your whole company. It could be something that winds up being way more fun than the little idea that you had for something else.
Yeah,
I've seen it happen in so many cases with different designers and different companies. There's no shortage of ideas, and when you find something that looks really cool and you really want to get involved with, and you don't see anybody else out there doing it, try it. Give a shot at it. Put together some people behind it. See what you can come up with. Even if it doesn't go anywhere, at the time that you're thinking about it, it might be something that goes somewhere in the future. Or that somebody else picks up on and carries on. And that's a really, really great thing about this industry.
Yeah.
When I look at all of the people that are that have come in as contributors here, I met a great many of these at design conferences where we do nothing but talk about theory and setting and game design and mechanics and all the little ins and outs of things that have to do with role-playing games and other games. And a great many of these people I've been like, I would love to someday be able to work on a project with this person. And the nature of what we're doing here with the Forbidden Libraries, giving us an opportunity without a great many hurdles to jump over to get a lot of people involved.
Yeah.
It's one on kind of a micro level, and it's kind of a dream come true for something like this. And I would have not thought it possible a couple of years ago. And this is it's really cool.
Dave, you were going to say earlier on.
Oh, I was just going to say that goes back to Kickstarter because, it allows you to do these projects that normally wouldn't have been funded by the big publishing houses and stuff. So it's nice to see this renaissance of gaming happening, in my opinion, as a consumer, because it's just not Wizards of the Coast and Paizo putting out stuff for the majority of the time now. It's, there's a lot of other companies.
Yep. And having the opportunity to kind of piggyback off of, especially with the OGL, and being able to piggyback off of a system so that I have, 2 sponsored campaigns, one from these folks, Alligator Alley for Esper Genesis, and then one from Cubicle 7 for Adventures of Middle-earth, which are both 5e compatible, but as we've talked about in previous shows, did such a wonderful job at creating a flavor where, yeah, it's 5e compatible, so the rules feel somewhat familiar, but the worlds are so different and the emphasis is so different. In Esper Genesis, the ship combat and the nature of the races and the world building and the nature of even sort of how hand-to-hand combat works, laser combat works, stuff like that. In Adventures of Middle-earth, how the corruption mechanic, the shadow mechanic, the journey mechanic, so many things that are different and that are added to the 5e mechanic, that it's a very broad-based system, but that allows you to kind of work with it and sort of tap into a much larger base of talent. You're like, one company can only be so big. Like WotC is, Fantasy Flight, Asmodee. These are all like huge companies, but there's only they can only hire so many people. The tabletop industry does not have 6 million employees working in it, and so having the ability to kind of use the hive mind, of other people involved with this. And you're right, by the way, just to go back to something you said, Brian, about working with these people. I love collaboration anyway, so getting the opportunity to feel like we're literally building a library together, which is sort of what happens here essentially. Is awesome to me, especially with people that I have admired greatly as writers, and of course as people that many of whom I know from game design stuff from a distance, not as a game designer myself, but just sort of like having played games that they created and being like, wow, this is really cool. That stuff is really neat to get a chance to actually collaborate with them. So I guess this is a good spot to actually ask about, normally this is where we do a product review, and I think this is probably a good moment to sort of throw that out there about, since we're talking about this, and I'll throw it to the 3 guests first. Is there a product from another company that you've been like, this thing is badass? Like, this is the thing that this thing is well designed. This really grabbed me in terms of its setting. It's something about the mechanics of it. Can you give me an example of a product from another company, presumably not WotC, because we've already talked about D&D, or your own products that you're just like, man? And I'll throw that to all three of you separately or as a group. That's up to you.
Right. I mean, do we want something new?
Well, reasonably new, but I would say anything that it doesn't have to be. I mean, it could be, but it doesn't have to be.
Mine's not new. It's old.
Okay, so give me yours first.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay.
It's no problem.
All right. So I've got a thing, and it's a bias against weird dice, right? I think why do we have them? You
don't like the 1D11. You know,
I've been gaming for 37 years, and why can't I have whatever dice I bought when I was 12, right?
Yep.
But so it kept me, and that's not even remotely at this point, but I mean, it's not really old, but it kept me from trying the Star Wars system, like you brought them up for a while, right? It's like, why am I rolling these weird dice with all the thing, and then I got to buy a special whatever, and what it really let us do is express the adventure of playing in Star Wars completely at almost a whim of the game master's interpretation of what a complication is, of what an advantage is, right? So the more creative you were, the more you could do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure the dice were needed to do that, but it was a new sort of thing, and now I was like, hey, let's have some weird dice, right? So I had passed up on a lot of games just because they used weird dice.
Interesting.
So now I look at it.
Interesting. So that gave you a whole new one. What are you going to say?
Are you talking about Final Fantasy Flight? Are you talking about that Fantasy Flight games, the new Star Wars game?
Yeah, not that new.
No, I mean that dice system actually scared me away. I was like, what's all this nonsense?
Have you tried it? I mean, have you tried it?
Yeah, it's good though. Now that I actually spent the time and learned all the mechanics of the die and the dice pools and advantages, yeah, it's a good system. It's a great role play system for sure.
Yeah, that's interesting. Brian, what about you? Have you got one that you're like, yes?
I get scratches in so many different places that different things, or itches in so many different places that different things scratch. For art, I am blown away by all of the Shadows of Esteren stuff.
Yeah, that is good stuff.
The Symbaroum RPG art, by anything from Adam Jury with Eclipse Phase and all of the really cool layout that he does.
Yep.
The L5R books, even going all the way back to a couple of editions, but especially the new L5R RPG books, the layout is tremendous in terms of the integration of art, featuring art principally on the page, and then have the text and stuff follow in form after that.
Yeah.
It's been very inspirational to me. In terms of clean layout, anything Hal Mangold does is just stunning and super usable and readable and fantastic. And just in terms of research and writing, anything Ken Hite does or Robin Laws does is just impeccably researched. And they have found ways to bring in adventure hooks and ideas just in reading through like 2 or 3 paragraphs or something. If you're not listening to Ken and Robin talk about stuff every week, you definitely should be.
Are you referring to Kenneth Hite, contributor to Tales and Tomes from the Forbidden Library? I just want to make sure that we're clear that this is the same.
In fact, Ken Hite has graciously agreed. He just got he and Robin were at a Cthulhu convention in Poland over the weekend, and they sent back pictures from like an under the castle absinthe bar called Erle, which was pretty amazing. But in terms of like the impeccably researched and great writing and that kind of stuff, always really grabs me. I'm a huge fan of John Wick for background and story. Ed Greenwood for world building and creation is like, he's like the guy right now, the living legend who made like the enormous world that you can still go and talk to. Stafford passing away was a huge inspiration. and he's not around, but we still have Ed. We don't have Dave Arneson or Gary Gygax, but we've got Ed, and Ed is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about intimidating and imposing for like the sweetest, nicest guy. When I first met Ed Greenwood and when I talked with him, he introduced himself in that huge basso voice that he's got with the beard. I just about fell over.
Yeah. He's tall, and he's got I had the good fortune to a couple of years ago on my Twitch channel was playing a D&D campaign or one shot with him, DMing for me, Mike Cole, Peter Brett, Eric Scott DeBee, Chris Jackson,
Jealous.
and John Helfers, who folks will know on this channel. And that was, I mean, and it brought it through what was very clearly an Ed Greenwood style dungeon. And yeah, exactly. Like I was just kind of like, dude, like this again, like 11-year-old me is just at this point on the floor, like so that's pretty wild. And by the way, about John Wick, I was extremely pleased that you got him as a contributor, not just because I also admire his work, but because I literally run a modified version of Wilderness of Mirrors as a campaign on my channel, and that was pretty sweet. Like I was like, oh yeah, John Wick. So that was pretty cool.
And my personal wheelhouse, I'm a big fan of folklore and adapting folklore into RPGs. Just came out just recently up on Drive-Thru, the Uncaged anthology that Ashley Warren edited, which is full of amazing bits of myth and folklore adapted in for gaming with like a feminist twist.
Neat.
To kind of subvert a lot of tropes, which when I'm running, I like to do like trope subversion. I like to have the players thinking that things are one way to find out that things are maybe not quite what they thought. And that's really exciting. So that's inspirational. The folklore that Wolfgang Bauer brought in through his early stuff, the Portrait of the Shadow Fae coming out really soon, and all of the Feywild stuff that is in Tome of Beasts and Creature Collection and Midgard are really inspirational to me, and the stuff that I like to put together. That's really cool. And going all the way back to Tin Can St. Andre and Tunnels and Trolls.
Sure, Tunnels and Trolls.
There's a ton of really cool folklore stuff in there too. So,
one
from like every direction, there's different things that I draw on.
Yeah, okay.
It's like Brian spends all day in a game store. And can really
I know. I was gonna say I could wax eloquent about it.
Stuff while some of us are doing other stuff.
That's right. One quick note I want to make before I ask Chris is I've been playing and will be playing later on tonight on my channel the Sorcery Gamebook series that's been converted by Inkle. And Sorcery, which is done by Steve Jackson, not the Texas one, the British one. That one, it was still the greatest gamebook series ever made. And part of the reason it was so good was not just the storytelling, but the art was so incredibly evocative and interesting and quirky. And it was not just all beautiful lines and everything. It was the fact that it felt somewhat, it's not at all amateurish, but it felt organic, real, like you were seeing someone in that world actually making this art. And it is a spectacular success. Like I say, I have played many, many hundreds of game books, and I have never encountered anything that holds together as well as that series does. And I think a big part of the reason is the way that it's put together and the way that the art is structured. And I got the first book of those in a Caldors back in 1982 for like $2.95 or something. And that was, and because it had this huge Manticore on the cover, and just like I was on my way. So the art there was amazing. Chris, let me ask you, what about a product that you love that's not Alligator Alley related, that you're like, yeah, this thing is awesome?
So beyond echoing a lot of the stuff that Brian said,
I got more.
I'm sure you do, and I do. But I'm going to go with like lately and with like in the future, actually. Lately, I've looked into the Forbidden Lands.
Okay.
Which, for $50, it's like a whole sandbox setting, map. Basically, until the players start here, when they go to a town, you decide the adventure and put the sticker of what the city was there. They give XP for like how many hexes you cover, and it uses the mutant year zero system to do it.
Okay.
So it's very cool, and it's in a box set. It looks very great. And I recently got done playtesting Swords of the Serpentine, which is sorcery for Gumshoe. which, you know, if you know Gumshoe, it's an investigative kind of system.
Mm-hmm.
To do swords and sorcery, that I got me very curious, and I enjoyed what I saw. It's going to be entertaining.
That's cool.
Like I said, to pitch for a couple of other people, I didn't get my mechanics itch in there. My mechanics itch is dovetailing into Eric's with the Star Wars stuff, the fail forward stuff. So whether it's coming from Powered by the Apocalypse or from Star Wars, when I run games, I like to have it so that even when somebody is trying to do something and they fail at it, they usually learn something or get something out of the failure.
Yes.
So I like that mechanic quite a bit. But I want to put the word in for something for your listeners to take a look at. Coming out hopefully later this year, Project Dark from Will Hindmarch is going to amaze everybody.
Okay.
It's a Kickstarter that's super late and has been being worked on kind of off and on by Will over the last few years while he's been overloaded with a lot of other projects and other issues. But it looks like it's finally coming out this year. I got to see a preview of it a few days ago, and it looks absolutely stunning.
Nice.
It's a game about thievery and subterfuge and skulking around in the dark with its own unique setting. It is almost completely designer created from top to bottom, and it looks just absolutely amazing. I'm super excited for that.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, and a plug for Will, right? Will's really awesome. And he's got kind of it's almost a feeling like he doesn't think his stuff is good enough, but he still has the courage to put it out there, and his stuff is, of course, all awesome.
Oh, it's
courageous
brilliant
for him to put it out, and you know, the rest of us don't necessarily realize that it's brave to put it out because it's so great. How could you not think it's something that should be put out?
Yeah. Like, how is that the I'm not saying that's imposter syndrome, but the somehow like undervaluing self thing is real, even if it seems insane.
And issues like that kind of run rampant through the entire industry.
Yeah.
We're all affected by it to one extent to another, and the anxiety affects us all in different ways. But that's something I'm super pumped about.
That's cool. And, you know, it's interesting. This industry, I think in particular, is a very much an industry where lots of people talk about how awesome stuff is. I mean, I know there are some people who talk down about a given product, but most of my experience, and I've met many, many, many people in this industry now, is people are just geek out about awesome games that they're playing. Like, this thing is awesome. Did you see that? That was cool. This was great. Like, there's very little of that. I played that and that sucked and that was terrible and this is garbage. Like, it seems like there's very little of the same level of cynicism. That doesn't mean that it doesn't exist at all, but it means that it seems to me that there's a general sense of people just get pumped up to play this stuff, and maybe it's because it's games that it feels there's automatically more joy in it because we all like playing games. I don't know, but there's definitely a sense that there's a generosity there, I think, in my experience anyway, from a lot of the people that work here. Also, the fact that it's a small industry, so if you talk smack about someone, it will get back to, I assume, other people, and maybe that's why it's mutually assured destruction or whatever. But yeah. So all right. Well, so this is a good chance for us to take a couple of questions before I let these folks go. And let me see. I'll answer this one first. So it's nice. You had a question for me about, you're going to be running a one shot of Forbidden Library for those people at the 250 backer level. Yep. What kind of races would be allowed from 5e? So I should mention about that there are a bunch of pre-constructed with backstories, characters that you can choose from here, or you can bring characters from 5e into it. I would be not unlike, personally as a DM, I would not in all likelihood rule out most races if they're not imbalanced, because the precise nature of this place is that these are all students at an academy for adventurers, essentially, which is a very broad-based place, right? Like it draws from all across, this is not one particular group of people only. And so it's a very diverse student body. And so I would be happy to have different races in there. I think that would be completely fine with me. Would depend on your DM, but I mean, the general regulations for it will be, as long as it's balanced and as long as you clear it with the DM/GM, then that's fine for them to run through the library, because things will be difficult enough, and it won't just be the cool factor of your character, however cool they may be, will also have to deal with whatever they encounter within the library and its, sequels and environs beyond that. So yeah, Barbarian walks into a library. That's fine. Listen, look, Barbarians read too, okay? They read for different reasons. They read because they want to use these books as weapons, which in fantasy they can do. So there's different reasons
How
you
to
do this.
control your rage.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, getting in touch with the inner anger that exists. That's all fine. So if folks have questions that they want to ask any of these gentlemen or Dave or myself. Say again, what?
Ugbug love manga.
Ugbug love manga. Yeah, exactly. His best love Hirohito work. But if anyone has a question for any of us, please just type in all caps question and then colon and then whatever the question is. And you can throw any question at any of these gentlemen from Alligator Alley or Dave or myself about stuff relating to the tabletop industry, Kickstarter, funding, or role-playing games that you're into. So now is the chance to throw this at us right now. Anger management, how to smash harder with your emotion. And we'll take a few of those questions before I let these folks go. And as a reminder, while we're waiting, only $48 before the giveaway. We are at 200 backers, $57.52, which is great. So, the Leonardo art book I have is well over 15 pounds, effective as a weapon, hits like a brick because it weighs as much as a dozen of them. That's true. The coffee table book, if it is dangerous to put other things on the coffee table with the book, that's a coffee table book, okay? Like that, you want the coffee table book to stand in as a coffee table. That's the real size differential that you want for
I would almost go as far as to say is usually any core rule book for a game nowadays is a pretty good bludgeoning utensil.
Yeah, you would think, right? Like you suspect, and actually John Wick's stuff is funny because he does stuff that's very, Wilderness of Mirrors is like, I don't know, 12 pages. But he's like, well, I threw this together in 15 minutes. I'm like, well, of course you did. Sure. It's like, but for most normal humans, there are these big things. The Esper Genesis book, is like this. And I would be remiss, by the way, since we're talking about art, not to mention, again, full disclosure, I write for these folks, but Nomnivore Games, Emberwind, the art on Emberwind is absolutely stunning. 100% stunning. So I do want to give them a recommendation because they are trying to do something different and they're working very hard. And I'd like to think that they're getting good people to write lore stuff for them, but their art is really, really good. Emberwind is tremendous. City of Mist book is 507. Well, that's John Harper, right? Part of that is because something like Blades in the Dark, it's so atmospheric. Like the minute I heard about the sort of setting for City of Mist and for stuff like Blades in the Dark, I was like, that's Dunwall from Dishonored. Like that is the incredible world building city that we've got as a part of it. So, oh no, City of Mist is Amit Moshe. That's right. Blades in the Dark is John Harper. But still, every time I think, the reason why is because Johnny, who plays in the Esper Genesis game, did a Blades in the Dark City of Mist game. So I always get those things kind of mixed up in my head. But yes, so is there a big bundle of the Emberwind core rule books? No, not yet. But there are those books that are going to be coming, and they do have a couple available, including the Skies of Axia campaign. They're working very hard to get these things out. I know that the Alligator Alley people cannot identify with working hard to get books out. I know that's not something they've ever had to do, working hard to get out books. But I'm being incredibly sarcastic. But yes, it's a lot of work to put these things out, but they are indeed working on it. So, all right, well, let me throw one question out at you folks, and then I will, again, chat. Now's your chance. If you want to get a question in, now's the chance to do it. So the other question that I want to ask you folks is, what is the point at which you say to yourself when you're working on a particular product? And I don't know whether you encountered this with Witch Hunter, Eric, or if Rich encountered this with Esper Genesis, or with any of the stuff that you did, Brian, when you've been working on Adventures, or Chris in your writing. When's the point when you're like, this is not going the way we wanted and we have to change course? Like, how much do you just persist through, I know the mechanic doesn't seem to make sense now, but it will, to it's dumb to keep banging my head against the wall, we've got to start afresh, as an example. How long, and I'm sure that's a personal answer, but how long do you folks do this? When do you know to change course? And I'll throw that to any of you.
Sure. Yeah, I've actually been there. Okay. So the original Witch Hunter mechanic sounded really, really cool until we tried to use it.
Okay.
No matter how many times we threw dice on the table, how many times we changed it, it was like, wow, this sounds like a really great idea that doesn't work. So we went to a more reliable thing. But one of the goals that you have to have, and this applies to any project that you do, right? So I've managed a lot of projects, and I forget gaming, just professionally, and led teams and that sort of thing. Is if you're going to fail, you want to fail as fast as possible.
Okay.
Right. So, because if you spend a long time before you realize you failed, that's a lot of time you could have been doing something better.
Okay.
Right. The biggest thing is you have to introduce it to people that don't understand it, that weren't there as part of the original idea, and then have them tell you how it works. And if they're always wrong, they're not the problem. Okay. Because gamers figure out stuff very quickly, brutally, into their own interest, faster than anybody, you know, as fast as anybody's you're going to get.
Right.
Right. They'll break your favorite toy in a minute. So you want to get it out in front of people that don't know. And then another thing is a lesson I learned the hard way with playtesters, and it was probably 10 years before I learned this lesson, is if you have a playtest forum, don't answer the questions for at least a day. You put it out there, and if someone else can answer the question and they're correct, then the problem is not the way you explained it.
That's really interesting.
Except for maybe a little bit of clarity, right? It's not the way you explained it. It's just, you know, someone understands it.
That's interesting. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. That's
right.
Yeah, see, that's that. Yeah, because you definitely want because it's true. You're not going to be sitting there in avatar form hovering over their shoulder to answer questions. You want the players to be able to. And you know what? And that's interesting you mentioned that. I want to ask a follow-up to that, because the thing that's interesting about that is it is amazing to me how many times rules are not clearly explained. It's sort of like my frustration at where so many video games seem to have trouble getting the goddamn camera right. Like figuring out how to focus the camera so you're not staring at a wall when your character's supposed to be jumping over this deadly chasm or whatever. And I feel in the tabletop industry, not role playing so much, although sometimes the manual, I'm just like, how am I supposed to know this? Where is this rule? Why would the... And so it seems like when you don't have that, when you have a very elegantly laid out, smart rule book, it really stands out for that reason. And I hadn't thought about that. So do you think that part of that is because of the play testing? Like you're able to do that because you've had it trial by fire with people that wouldn't know otherwise, to see if they do know how to answer these questions? Like, because I really think it's an art to make the rules make sense, and it doesn't do that in a lot of games that many, you know.
I'm going to say something that's sorry.
No, after you.
What's going to come through is this is going to sound a little strange, and it's counterintuitive. It's how people always get in trouble.
Okay.
The more you explain the rule, the worse it is, and the more abused it becomes.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm going to say something that's not a knock on 3X, but it's a different style, right? So you go through all the 3X stuff, 3.30, 3.5, Pathfinder, anything that runs up there, D20 Modern, doesn't matter. It works off of there. And you work on 5E. 5E's rules don't really go into a lot of depth on the fringes because they don't matter.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So whereas 3.5 explains them to death, right?
Yeah.
So if you have a rule somewhere that's absolutely mandatory, but the only place you mention it is in the magic section with no header and no one can find it.
Yep.
Somehow these two line of sight, line of effect define everything you do in the combat section. You've created your own issue because you over-explained it and then didn't tell anyone where to find it. Right?
Yeah.
Whereas in D&D 5e, not for nothing, but most of the time, if I roll a D20 and the number's a big number, things are good.
Yeah.
Right. You know, and you know, Brian, if he's running the game, can tell me what's going on. I don't need to know, but I'm sorry, but on complete douchebag on page 47, it says, you know, I get to do this, right? It's completely unnecessary.
Yeah. And you know what else it does is it creates, it sort of enhances the gatekeeper problem, because it means the one person who does go through and knows all the rules, and then they can be like the rules lawyer. Oh, let me explain this. You know what I mean? Like, so that sort of enhances that problem. Also, not a problem for us is the fact that we just passed 5,800. We are at 5817 with 202 backers. That's what I'm talking about. So that means we will have a giveaway, which I will do after I let these gentlemen go, but I will do a giveaway, I promise. And Dave will give away a miniature, right, Dave? Like Dave is actually gonna send a miniature. How do you want to handle that, Dave? Before I,
you can just get me an address as long as it's within the United States, and I'll ship it. So hopefully, because overseas shipping
Yeah, not happening. So yes, we will do a giveaway. So you will get a miniature from Dave, which is very kind of him, and you will get
Let's do a
shipped.
couple of miniatures.
Shipped direct from
it's like I don't have like 3,500 miniatures
from WotC South, WotC El Paso Center, down there. So, but thank you, Dave, and thank you to those of you who got us over. That's really awesome. We hit that, and we'll do a giveaway as well. Okay, we had one other question that I wanted to throw out to you folks from chat before I let you go, which was a simple one, and that is, what is the favorite game you have ever played? And I would add why to that. It can be video game, tabletop game. What is your favorite game? I'll start with Dave this time, and then I'll go in to give our guests a little time to think about it. So, Dave, favorite game?
Favorite game of all time, when I started playing in #84, basic Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
It's a relentless game. It's ruthless. It's not 5e, and I have a lot of great childhood memories as a kid. And I have a legit level 31 cleric. So died a couple times, but abilities, attributes took some hits, but that's my favorite RPG game, Dice Zone game of all time. I mean, it just holds a special place in my heart, and I'll always love that game. That's what I played in the same game with my friends growing up for 15 years. So my favorite computer game is Dark Age of Camelot, best PvP game out there.
Oh man, it's funny you mentioned that, because I played with my friends a bunch of Dark Age of Camelot, and they had like big time characters on that, and it's good stuff. There's still a server that remains for that thing too. There's still a server left.
It was bought by a company called Broadsword, I think.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And Ultima, and they bought it from Mythic Entertainment. So.
Yeah. So that's cool stuff. So I will say, and then I'll let the guests respond. I agree with that. Dungeons and Dragons. I think I had all the basic, D&D sets all the way up to, Immortals, I guess, that you could do.
Yeah.
But then I also did advanced D&D later on. Dungeons and Dragons in general is my favorite game of all time. I've said many times on this channel that that D&D, not being too hyperbolic about it, had a profound effect on my life, arguably saved my life. And so the power of what that taught me and what I was able to imagine for myself in a time when I was not doing great was extremely important to me. And I see that with kids. It's one of the reasons that Zach Clay, who plays in Esper Genesis, he runs a D&D club with a bunch of middle schoolers. I love every video he ever sends me of that stuff, because there is nothing better than seeing a group of kids that might in other contexts be angry at each other or pissed off or getting into cliques, instead sitting around a table and laughing their ass off and talking about how they gotta jump down this mountain so they can kill this troll. That's a pure joy, community building exercise that I think cannot be matched. So, although I will say that the Talisman board game is a close second for me, only because I used to play that with friends in my home when we had huge snowdrifts outside and we would be playing epic games in front of the fireplace. That's a personal thing. Talisman is good too, but D&D is definitely the best. So now that Chris and Brian and Eric have had a chance to think about it, give me your top game. Oh, go ahead, Dave. And then
when I had my midlife crisis and quit my job as the store manager of Walmart, threw away a great job to go to college to major in history. When I was president of student government, some of the freshmen came up to me and asked me if we could start a D&D club. And I said, hell yeah. And all of the executives in the office said no, but I used my power as the presidency to executive order that club.
That's a good executive order I can get behind.
And I built them a game room. I invested about $10,000 of student government's money into this. And I'll tell you what, the college was going to take the money anyway, because there was a surplus. There was like $50,000 in student government funds, and none of the presidents before me would ever spend it. So I spent it, man. I bought a big screen TV for them. I put an air conditioner in there. I did everything for them when I was leaving office. I said, it's done. 5 years. So they had that room for 5 years. And I think this is, it's been more than 5 years, but hopefully it's continuing.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. That's super awesome.
Yep.
All right, Chris, Brian, Eric, what do you got for favorite game of all time?
Favorite game of all time?
Favorite game.
Mine's pretty easy. If we're talking about a role-playing game, my favorite role-playing game of all time is Deadlands.
Deadlands, okay. Yep.
And I don't mean like anything built onto like Savage Worlds. I'm talking, 1995. I saw that poster, bought it at Gen Con, got all my friends to play it, whether they wanted to or not. Right? As it turns out, they all ended up wanting to because it's that cool game.
Well, Dave is a big Deadlands guy. Dave's a big Deadlands guy.
Deadlands. Yeah. I love Deadlands. Yeah, it's all about the Ghost Rock, baby.
Well, it's another thing. It's the first game. I mean, when you're coming out of, let's say, like White Wolf, et cetera, you sort of get genre defining. But it was the first one that I really remember where the genre defined to a certain extent the rules, right? You had the poker feel and the chips and all of it. And Shane didn't take himself seriously for a second with anything he did with it. It's very, very tongue in cheek, but not cheesy at the same time. So you just felt like you were playing in something in kind of a prototypical Western thing, and then it was weird with monsters.
Yeah.
Dead people and everything.
Devils and demons and hucksters and all that other stuff. Yeah, I love Savage Worlds Deadlands also.
And some of our greatest gaming group stories are from playing Deadlands and just letting people get into trouble. And it's one of our defining things. So.
No, that's awesome. Totally.
And as a son, how you talked about 11-year-old you geeking out because Greenwood's involved or whatever.
Yep.
One of the things that happens is you get a guy like Shane, who's a really great guy, coming by and saying, "This is really good. This is really good work." And not just being nice, like really picking up your stuff and going, that really, you're like awesome because this and like L5R got me in the mindset to create role-playing games in my life.
Yeah.
Right. So.
That's super awesome. Totally agree. I'll work over to the left. Brian, what about you?
Ooh, it's tough because I'm not a system person. I'm like a group person.
It can also be a board game. It doesn't have to be a role-playing game.
For like overall tabletop games, my favorite overall tabletop game that's not a role-playing game is Once Upon a Time from Atlas Games.
Oh yeah, sure.
That's my favorite game too, for like not a role-playing game. But for me, for RPGs, I've had fantastic times playing D&D, playing Champions, playing Deadlands, but I'd say I've got a soft spot for the Palladium system.
Okay.
And I really love Strike, Parry, Dodge, and I've found ways to develop it into a fail forward system. And as far as like systems to run, I have a lot of fun running Palladium because it's got the skills, it's got the percentages, and it's got the active defense, which I've always liked. But really, the best gaming stories that I can remember have all come from similar groups of people that I've played with over the course of the years, but all with different systems.
Okay, very cool. Chris, what about you? What about favorite game?
Oh, well, it's kind of a tie for me between my college days and afterwards. Mage the Ascension.
Okay, sure.
Which are like totally two different opposite games.
Yep.
But Mage the Ascension, it was very, improv. We had a whole kind of mythology that kind of spread to other game masters. I had a PC that became an NPC in other people's games, basically.
Nice.
Zen and the art of motorcycle maintenance, sort of kind of biker dude meets martial arts. And then Pendragon, because it was the game that would not die. People would come by, like, a month later, they'd go, how many years have gone by in that game? And I give them that. They'd roll little tables for their mini adventure, and we'd start playing again. We'd go on and on. And it was a great game, too.
That's pretty sweet. Those are two good ones. Actually, all the ones that have been mentioned are ones that are good ones. And that really, and everybody has their own, like, for some of them, like, for example, my co-host on Speculate, and in fact contributor to Forbidden Library, Mike Underwood, is a big fan of the Blades in the Dark and Scum and Villainy, which is basically, a hacked Blades in the Dark system, and GM'd it, and I've had a chance to play with some authors with him on Speculate. And I've been extremely impressed and glad that I'm not GMing it, because good God, is that a lot of work? Like, it feels like to me, but he's always like, no, it's great because of this, that, and the other. And it certainly plays like a lot of fun. Like, you're in the middle of this thing. So it really kind of handles that sort of stuff really well. Year Zero engine or PBTA, Oh, Powered by the Apocalypse. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of really, and people are really, they like the system and they're real adherents to it. Like they're just like, yeah, this is the system that I love. And there's a lot more out there as the takeaway than just the D&D stuff, etc. So, all right, well, it is, the 2-hour mark has been reached. And so I want to give, I'm going to let these gentlemen go. I will give them, first of all, though, one more chance to talk about, we hit 5817 and 2 backers and all that kind of stuff. Well, I will be doing a giveaway, and I'll do one giveaway. We'll get the miniatures and then the game to the giveaway, but I'll do that, as I say, once I let these gentlemen go. But Chris, Brian, Eric, and I guess maybe Brian specifically for this one, is there anything you want to talk about in terms of things people should be on the lookout regarding either Alligator Alley generally or Tales and Tomes for the Forbidden Library Kickstarter?
Well, I think we've covered quite a lot. I mean, if no questions came up regarding it, I guess I'm really looking forward to funding pretty soon, adding in a whole bunch of stretch goals.
Yes.
And figuring out what kind of cool library stuff we could do. I remember a friend of mine, saying that they had some friends at the American Library Association, and I'd like to kind of see what maybe charitable things we might be able to do that don't add a whole bunch of extra production stuff on our side. To get them involved would be kind of neat. But really, we're looking forward to seeing what kind of budget we've got to work with this, and obviously the more help we can get, the more backers that we can bring in, the cooler and nicer and more artified and contributorified this book can be. And I'm just super excited to work with with you and with this really incredible group of contributors that we've got here. I think it's going to be a very special product for years to come.
Yeah.
Well, and talking about just Alligator Alley in general, Threats Database is really, really close.
Oh.
Yes.
And along with pretty much very soon a second printing of the core rulebook for Esper Genesis.
Nice.
That's awesome. That second printing. Yeah. And the Threats Database, I've had a chance to see. I have a little bit of a connection. And so I managed to, but I've seen some of it and it's awesome. Like I'm actually really looking forward to getting it. Kat Rambo is the one who was really excited about getting all these things autographed by them, like wanting to walk in. They actually signed Brian and I'm not sure I think everybody probably at the table anyway signed it for her when she came by. And a quick shout out to Kat, because Kat also is the one who pushed as SIFA president to get, I know Chris and I have talked about this, to get game writers involved in sort of the Nebula thing, and sort of pushing for that be included in the Hugos as well. Now, the next step is to make sure that we get people to know people that are in the game writing industry that aren't just, writers that happen to write a game once in a while. So that's next, but one step at a time. The fact that she's taking advantage of it and putting it out there is a big thing, and I think will help my field of speculative fiction as well as the field of games that I love dearly. So I will never eat raisins if we hit $1 million kills. That's not going to happen, but nice try. Yeah, you can keep trying. It's never going to occur. But this is
great.
Yeah,
$1
sure.
million?
$1 million, I might be convinced. I could probably be convinced. Yeah, I do not like raisins, but yeah, $1 million. But I can't say that. I have to be like, no, I would never, ever. And
Because I'm thinking of Monday's stretch goal ad.
Get Arv to eat raisins on stream. Listen, if the stretch goal was $1 million, I'd be like,
One box of Sunkist, $1 million.
I guess one thing that I wanted to add in there, because we've had a couple of Esper Genesis backers that saw what we're doing with the Forbidden Library, which is all super awesome. But I wanted to make sure that we allayed any concerns among Esper Genesis players and backers that we might get distracted with the Forbidden Library. Rich is working super hard on finishing up Threats Database really soon, and nobody that is currently working on Esper Genesis is going to be doing work on Forbidden Library until Esper Genesis is done. Part of the reason why we are able to do this project with Greg and all these contributors is that Greg and all these contributors are writing it, and we're going to be getting those manuscripts in in the summer. And until between now and then, we're going to be finishing up Esper Genesis, and then we're going to be working on laying out and getting all this stuff in for TFL. It's just that right now is the time when we needed to figure out what the budget was going to be, because we do have to hire artists and other freelancers and start herding contributors and getting them ready for a deadline before the summer. So organizationally and from a planning standpoint, it makes sense for us to do this now. But I wanted to make sure if anybody had any concerns that oh no, Esper Genesis is going the wayside. Nothing could be farther from the truth. Esper Genesis is at the forefront of our minds, and it's what we're working on right now. And that's going to continue to be the case until it's fine.
Yep. And all this sort of,
I'll be working on both, but it's something I can do.
yeah. Well, the order, I mean, and again, the order of this, and I can confirm also that these guys have been working tirelessly, as I said, on the work that's been done. And as far as the reason I'm able to do it when I'm overloaded with a bunch of stuff is that 2/3 of it is already done because I already have the 2 parts finished. And the third part is going to be finished, well in advance because I need to do it well in advance because I'm going to be running it at Gen Con, the concluding adventure of the 3 at Gen Con this year. So yes, this will not involve it will not overload them from doing this, and they wouldn't have agreed to it if it was going to do that. So
is it possible to overload you, Arv? Because I think you are probably the hardest working person in writing and GMing and streaming and RPGs that I can think.
I appreciate that very much. You should ask my family. I can absolutely be overloaded, and I have to work on not letting that happen because otherwise, yeah. But it's also, there's overload, and then there's the pleasure of being busy with stuff that I love doing. There is a difference there too. I can get overloaded with tedious stuff as well, but stuff like this is enjoyable too. And yeah, so anyway, but this was great stuff. I really enjoyed this, and I cannot thank you enough. First of all, publicly thank all of the folks at Alligator Alley for working with me with the Esper Genesis stuff. I actually reached out to them last year, beginning of last year, January 2018, I believe it was, and asked them about the possibility of streaming Esper Genesis on my channel, and they were extremely generous in their response. And it's been a very good relationship since then, and this work that they've done on this is just confirmed beyond my expectations about how well they did it. So publicly, I want to say, Chris, Brian, Eric, thank you so much. And then generally, I want to say thank you to the 3 of you and to Rich, who's not here, but for just really kind of putting together a good company that you can rely on. I really like good, solid, professional companies that, in video games, Harebrained Schemes, run by Mitch Gittleman and Jordan Weissman that does the Shadowrun stuff, and Battletech. Like, it's just a good company that always does good work. And I feel like that's what Alligator Alley is. So I wanted to thank you guys very much. And chat, I want you to support them and show them you love them by backing the Kickstarter, and also by getting Esper Genesis and doing all that good stuff. So thank you to Chris, to Brian, to Eric. Thank you guys for being on Masters of the Dungeon as well. Chat, can we get some love for them? And gentlemen, it was a pleasure, and we will be in touch soon, of course.
Thanks a bunch, Arv.
Nice meeting you guys.
Thank you guys. Bye for now. And
15. Because he's
there we go. Okay. And that leaves us with, as I quickly get rid of those webcams, except for Dave's, who I do not want to get rid of.
Hello, Greg.
Because we want to finish up with Dave here. So yeah, that was a good time, and thank you for indulging me a little bit, Dave. As I know, was again, I did not want to make it all about shilling for this thing, but it is something that I've been very excited
it's
about,
all good.
And it is industry related, So
I totally agree, man. It's cool to see that you have a Kickstarter going, with some content and all that other good stuff, plus your other books, and man.
It's exciting.
You're a machine. Well, you're a machine, Greg.
I am I bluff well, if that's true, but I'm very glad that I have really, really good people that I'm working with. So that's really super awesome. So yeah. Where will the fine people, my friends, see you next? Other than wait, before Dave leaves, let's just do the giveaway right now, because that way we can at least we can talk about this. Let's do the giveaway right now. So I am going to do a giveaway now, and just give me a second while I pull this up. There's going to be 2 miniatures. Now, do you want to show them the minis you're sending, Dave, or you want it to be a surprise for them?
It's just going to be a surprise, okay. Greg. I got just boxes and boxes of minis. I have no clue, but
okay, that's cool. So what I'm going to give you folks today is a choice of
a large miniature and a small and a medium miniature. So
okay,
I'll probably do a little bit of probably a couple of each. Probably 3-4 miniatures. So
you will get a choice of one of 3 games plus the 2 miniatures from Dave if you win this giveaway. And the games that you will win is a choice between The Walking Dead Season 1, Renegade Ops Collection, or Borderlands 2. That's right. I don't throw just any nonsense at you. The Walking Dead Season 1, Renegade Ops Collection, or Borderlands 2. Those are the games that I will give away. And the giveaway word for the day is going to be, let's see.
Funded. Go with funded.
Yeah, there you go. Funded. I like it. There we go. The giveaway keyword is funded. If you would like to win 2 miniatures from the Digital DMs Vault, and you would like to win a copy of either Borderlands 2 or The Walking Dead Season 1 or Renegade Ops Collection, please type in funded. Please type in funded if you would like to win one of those. Now is your chance to get in on doing this. I love it. Funded.
Can I enter that too?
Of course.
What if I was to win? I could just
if you win, you can absolutely do that. If you win, then you just have to. We'll do another giveaway, and you just send the miniatures to whoever wins. That's all. You can do that. That's cool.
I'm not entering.
Okay.
I'm not entering.
Trend with Fondant, Dragon Spear Fun Dudes. So you're not. You guys do not want Dragon. You are not interested in these miniatures from the Digital DMs Vault.
Yeah.
These are not just like he just got some G.I. Joe figures from some. I mean, like these are
Here's a box of hundreds and hundreds of mediums right here. I just haven't separated them. Look at that.
Look at that. I mean, wow. Like that's just
full, man.
That is no joke right there.
It's just like I just threw them in a box, Greg. It's like I don't even give a shit about these things. I just throw them in a box. That's just what I do.
It's good. Thank you for the resub, Rock God. Good to see you, man. 13 months. Thank you. Yeah, that's true, Dragon. I guess you shouldn't enter a contest in which you donated the games to me that we're giving away. That's fair enough. I suppose that's true. Are they scratch and sniff? Trent wants to know. Are these scratch and sniff
miniatures?
Yeah,
No, not scratch and sniff. Come on. They're not scratch and sniffs, Trent.
You just ship the miniatures to yourself if you win. Yeah, you should do that, Dave. You just send them out in the post office. Ship the miniatures to yourself.
Yeah.
Via, send them via Seattle, to come back.
They're gonna be organized now. I actually bought a bunch of airtight Sterilite containers, and they'll fit in those cubes 4 high. So, I'm gonna get totally nerdy with it, Greg.
I love it.
A bunch of multi-use removable labels. I'm gonna, separate them by monster type, humans and elves and dwarves, and so I can just open it up and they'll all be standing up in there and I can just see what I want.
And you can fit all of them? You really can fit all of them, you think? Like all the miniatures
and yeah, because I'll have you can't see, but the whole wall will be cubes, so that I'll have a total of 44 cubes.
Okay.
But I'll take pictures, and I'm gonna.
I can't wait to see it. All right, folks. Last call on this. Last call. We've only got 2 people entered. What? You got a 50% chance. This is again like Tremendous Games plus 2.
We should just
miniatures.
cancel the giveaway. I mean, come on, let's just cancel it and call it a night, Greg.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I promised that I would do.
Cancel it and just call it a night. We'll go get a slice of pizza or something.
There you go. He's going to send an elf and a tentacle monster, and both of them are Canadians. That's true. Not only that, exactly. Also, it's going to be won by Canada. So not only is this like we can't even like Dave and I, both Americans, are going to like end up giving things away to the Canadians, like. And they,
I'm not shipping to Canada. You think I'm crazy? You think I want to spend $100 to ship 2 miniatures to Canada? No way.
Maybe you could ship it to just north of it, like give it to someone in Detroit, and then they could just toss it over the border and have someone pick it up on the other side. Canadians are delicious. Well, one of the things that could happen is if one of these win, like if Brahms wins, for instance, Dave could actually ship it to me because I'm going to be in Canada for a conference at the end of the year. So I can just give it to you personally. Now, if it's Kilobyte, then Kilobyte's going to have to figure out a way to get himself down to one of these freaking conventions and, show up and say hi. So you're in Detroit. Dragon, that's how we'll do it. We'll ship it to you. Then you will walk over the border and not at all suspiciously hand over a mysterious package to someone on the other side. And
Dude,
that'll
if
be
I
good.
did that in El Paso, I would get shot for doing that right now. With all the border stuff we got going on.
Oh
Dude,
my
I would
God.
totally get shot for that. But I mean, I do love going into Juarez. Juarez is as long as you stay within the American district, it's okay.
Yeah. So that's what it's all about. Canadians aren't evil. Canadians are delicious, but not evil. Well, listen, Canadians should apologize for not being as evil as Americans, because that's what Canadians do best.
Hello,
is
Terrence.
apologize.
Hello, Philip. Oh. With their beady little eyes and their floppy heads.
All right, here we go. Giveaway dash stop. Here we go. And the winner is
Unbelievable.
Brahms is the giveaway winner. Well, there you go. See, that's easy. I will be able to see Brahms, and I'll be able to give him this thing. So Brahms, obviously the game I'll be able to send you before that, but Dave will send me, I will give him the address. Dave will send me these 2 miniatures, and then I will bring them to you in October.
I may even do more than 2, Greg.
All right, listen. Hey, look, man. That's
I may do a small, a medium, a large, and maybe a huge.
Wow, this is getting even better. See that?
Mm.
Congratulations, Brahms. Brahms, you're still here, yes? I assume. Yeah, for sure. Okay, good. I was gonna say.
Don't say I didn't ever give you anything, Brahms.
Yeah, no. I mean, listen, like that's straight from the digital vault, the digital DM's vault. So you do not want to mess that up. Brahms, what game would you like, Brahms? By the way, just so I'm gonna put it, I'll give it to you later. Brahms did not leave.
I think he said Borderlands 3.
Borderlands 3.
It was just announced, Greg.
Yeah. But Half-Life 3 confirmed. That's gonna be the next one. Borderlands 2. Okay. Borderlands 2.
Dark Age of Camelot 2. That's what I'm waiting for.
Yeah. Is there any update on that? Like I had heard that was happening at some point, but
it's not Dark Age of Camelot 2, but yeah, it's coming out. It's still in like beta or something. 3 years late.
I see. So you're not convinced that it's going to be
It'll never be Dark Age of Camelot, Greg. It will never be. I just spilled like a gallon of water on my shirt too.
All right. Well, that is a
Digital Dungeon Master's a slob. Look at that HD slob.
At least we're talking water, so that's fine. All right. Well, I am going to let Dave go because he's run over and been very generous with his time. Dave, always a pleasure, my friend. Where will the fine folks see you next here on these internets?
All you got to do is just Google Digital Dungeon Master. You'll find me. Enough said.
Yep. And you should check
out. And I
out...
should come up at the top of the list too.
Yeah, I would hope so. You got all 3 days. Nice, Brahms. That'll be perfect. Google DDD. Well, not necessarily those letters. You might get a very different kind of Google search. But you'll definitely
may get 2 Girls 1 Cup with DDD. I'm not too sure. But,
You'll definitely
that's another show.
That's a very different kind of show. Now I'm looking at Masters and I'm just like, I'm not even going to go down that route. But it was always a pleasure to have Dave with us. Dave, of course, will be back with us for Master of the Dungeon next month. And Dave, thank you very much also for backing and for the miniature gift. I genuinely appreciate it. So thank you.
My pleasure, man. I may not be here next month, Greg. I've got to go to Los Angeles for a special event from one of the big game companies.
Oh my goodness! All right, well then I didn't realize.
It's a work-related trip, so
okay. Well, listen, if they're looking for certain prominent vidcast that talks about the industry and tabletop games that just like that you might have some connection to, just happen to do a little name drop in there, that would
I don't think I'll have any camera time. I'm going to be working the booth of the company that I work for. So I work for Fantasy Grounds, in case you guys don't know, I work full time for them. So I do have a work related trip, but I will be going to Gen Con this year.
That's awesome. Yeah, finally we're gonna get a chance to meet face to face then.
Yeah,
I'll be there.
And we're gonna do a spooning session live on cam.
Yep.
And all proceeds will go to
my legal defense fund.
The Digital Dungeon Master Vault, so I can complete my D&D collection.
That's exactly right.
I still need like $40.
I will go out of Twitch in a blaze of glory, but it will all have been worth it. It'll be great.
Session.
Thank you, Dave. Great pleasure. We will see you
Yeah.
soon. If not next month, then we'll definitely see you back here in May. But thank you, sir, so much as always. Can we get some
problem.
love for Dave? Yeah, never mind, Tren. Never mind.
I bid all of you adieu, and I hope all of your characters die. And I'll see you next month.
Bye, Dave. Thank you.
See you, Greg. Bye, everybody.
All right. That is going to Kilobyte. Kilobyte's like, what? All right. So, let me just quickly make sure that I adjust that and get that fixed and like that. Lovely. All right. Now that is not going to be it for us for tonight because we're going to be switching over to something else, but we are going to be continuing to talk about that. So, Brahms, after the stream is over, I will drop you the code for Borderlands 2. And then, as I say, Dave will be sending me some stuff, and I will then bring that stuff up. So I will see you in October for that. So this shirt is, I forget, I went through this last year and I forgot. It's a football team, you would say, soccer, Americans would say, in Norway, to the northern side. And I don't remember exactly, except when I got this, it was when I was in Norway, which was literally, it was 2007, because it was, my wife was pregnant with our daughter, but she was obviously not born yet. And so I forget what it is. It was something, shoot, I got to look it up again. But anyway, this was a team that I literally said to the guy, I'm like, I don't want a team that is just buys its way to victory. And like, I basically don't want the New York Yankees. What I want is a team that does well, and, is successful, and that has a good following, but isn't just like, oh, we win by just, so no, it's not Celtic, not Man City. This is in Norway. This is in Norway. So Dragon, of course, is all about Man U. The Patriots. Oh God, Patriots. But yeah, so anyway, that was what I asked for. And so I got this, and I went through this exact conversation a couple of years ago, and I figured it out and then forgot again. So I need to go find out what this is. But anyway, but I happen to like the jersey, that we can do right there. Oh, it's Molde FK. Yeah, that's right. Molde. And I forget how you pronounce it. Molde Football Club. That's what it is. Molde Football Club, which apparently, again, is not bad. And a lot of the soccer jerseys that I have come from teams like this, like the IAK. Our friend IAK Enforcer. IAK is like this. That's one of 3 teams in Athens, but it's not like the awesome team that's always, but it's solid, and sometimes it does really well. And it's got like a loyal following, and that's what I'm like. Guess whose manager is that won them all their titles? Was it Alex Ferguson? Did Alex Ferguson win all the titles for these people? Is that what you're talking about? Yes, Trent. I wondered if anybody caught that. Yes. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, the Manchester United legend who's now Manchester United's manager. So I have to ask, when you ask his first name, do they call him Ole? And when they win, do they go, Ole, 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 Ole? Yeah, Liverpool, I kind of pull for as well, Dave, because they're owned by the Red Sox. So I'm kind of duty bound. Also, they're red, which is my favorite color. Also, they sing this awesome song before every match, which I think is pretty cool. We do yell the Spanish, ole, ole, ole. Well, I know you do, but I meant, do you do that for him? That's the key. It sounds like Oli. Oli, 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 Oli. As long as you don't go hurdy-burdy dirty, because that's the Swedish Chef. So as long as you don't do that. Anyway, all right. So that is going to do it for Masters of the Dungeon, but not for Sorcery. I'm going to say bye to the folks on the VODs who are watching Masters of the Dungeon. Thank you all so much. If you were interested in this, if you want to know more, please double check the link that you will see here, which is there. Alligator Alley, blah, 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 blah. Kickstarter is running April 19th. That will get you over to that link. Right now, we've got 202 backers and 5,817, 21 days to go. So that's super awesome. Thank you to those of you who have backed and supported so far. Please continue to spread the word and let people know. Thank you. And of course, we will be back here with Masters of the Dungeon with myself, hopefully Dave, and definitely Dot, Little Red Dot will be back with us as well next month for an all-new awesome experience of Masters of the Dungeon. For those of you who are live with me, stick around. For those of you who are not live and watching, thank you all so much. And come check me again on twitch.tv/ArvinElleron and on this YouTube channel. Please sub here, and we will see all of you soon. Bye for now.